back to, I think, Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, but a little different this time, everybody, because joining me from the Fandom Zone is my other co-host, Karen Lindsay. So welcome, Karen, to Ghostwood for the very first time.
Thank you.
And Karen is meeting Zan for the first time. And already I can feel like I'm totally outnumbered here, guys. Because
too bad.
Both of you, I seem to have a podcast co-host type. And both of you are like big on quotes. And apparently you're both big Psych fans, which works out really well for this episode.
For this episode? Yes.
Just a little bit. So what are we going to talk about? Of course, we're going to talk about Dual Spires, the episode of Psych that aired back in December 1st, 2010 as the 12th episode of Season 5 on Psych, which aired on the USA Network, I believe. Now, I am not a big Psych fan, although apparently I should be watching this show.
Yes. 1,000%.
It needs to go on my list of hundreds of shows
that I need to watch. It's all up your alley. This show is completely up your alley.
Right.
It really is. It's all pop culture references. It's very sly, under the radar jokes. It's very funny. Smart humor and dumb humor, both.
Well, dumb humor, hey, that's me all over, right?
I know.
So
exactly.
All right. So Karen, let's get a little background here. Okay, so and then we'll talk with you, Zan, because you obviously are a fan too. So Karen, what's your background with Psych?
Okay, well,
just real quick.
When I heard that USA was doing a Dead Zone show in the early thousands,
right?
That's when I started watching the original programming, and then they started with a show called Monk, starring Tony Shalhoub, whom I loved from Wings, and I fell into that.
I love from Galaxy Quest.
Exactly. But this was before Galaxy Quest.
Right.
It was after Wings, though. And when I watched those, I was like, this is great programming. They were both original, like the pioneering original programming for USA. Those were pretty much the first two main shows that started the whole thing off.
Right.
And the next show that came down the pike was Psych. And I said, okay, this sounds great. So I started watching it, and I was just immediately in love with it. It was so me. It's all pop culture. It's, humor. It's, it's got everything. It's got crotchety old guys. It's got,
apparently it's got Corbin Burnson.
Yes, Corbin Burnson is Sean's dad. And there's, love stories. There's background between the bromance characters that goes all the way back to grade school. I mean, there's just a huge mythos in the show. And it's just something that I dug from day one. So I started watching it, and I still watch it to this day, as you know.
Right.
I just watched it like 2 weeks ago. I watched a few episodes. So, I mean, I watch it every time I get the mood to watch it.
So even though I gave you like all of 24 hours notice for this, you're ready to go, ready to discuss it. So,
I sure am.
Awesome. And Zan, how about you? When did you get into Psych?
Hi, I'm Zan Sprouse.
Yeah, you never did introduce her. I was just about to get on your case.
Well, I'm a little off my game, so I apologize, Zan. So
we have not been around for a while, so
please forgive me. Yeah. We should talk about that because it's all my fault, everybody. I had this little small independent movie called Avengers: Infinity War that I wanted to go see. So we rescheduled for a week, and then next week turned out to be my cat Keiko's vet appointment that I was not aware of, so that put us back another week. And Zan got sick in the meantime. And
when you said, "Hey, I want to go see Avengers," is that okay with you? I was like, "That's fine." I did not
Right.
protest at all because I was not feeling very well. Yes.
Right.
Yes, child. The missing of the podcast. Those were all your fault.
Yes.
It's always his
My
fault.
illness just
I will totally own that one. Yeah.
Yes.
Or actually,
So-
those 2 weeks. Yes.
Right.
I'm
Those two.
amazed that you found a theater that was showing the Avengers movie.
I know. I mean, it was just so hard to find.
So indie and
yeah, rare. I mean, you had to go to like this really small like.
It was the gateway, wasn't it? You had to go down to
exactly.
the
You had to do
gateway.
this go
Yeah.
like these little rinky-dink university theaters to go see this. Where all the film students go.
the IMAX theater. Is
Yes. Yeah.
Look at me, I'm a grad student and I made $600 last year. That is a reference to The Simpsons when they go to the art theater and Homer is angry because the seats aren't cushioned and there's a guy eating an apple. And Bart is making fun of the grad students.
I love that guy eating an apple. That's fantastic.
And then he says to Homer, "Would you like a slice?" And Homer goes, "Yes."
Well, Homer
So,
doesn't
yes,
turn down food.
No,
I mean,
he does not.
yeah.
And then of course he gets stuck in the way too small independent
Fair,
theaters.
of course, yes.
So so yes, we've been gone for a while, and thank you, Charles, for helping people forget who I am.
I'm never going to live that down, am I? I'm totally not.
Anyway, back to Psych.
And
If it's
that-
any
that-
consolation,
Yes.
he talks about you at the end of our podcast for like 10 minutes.
Yes.
Well,
I do.
we are all part of the Southgate family. We should.
I know.
Right.
We should be all talking about each other on all the podcasts to make sure that we are out there in everyone's ether. So anyway, back to Psych. Back when
Yes.
Psych first came out, do you remember that rumor that Marilyn Manson was Paul from the Wonder Years?
Yes.
Yes.
There was
That was a
similar-
good one. I like
Yeah.
that one.
That was a good one. There was a similar rumor about Psych when it first came on the air that Gus was the actor
Oh.
who played Kenny on the Cosby Show.
Yes.
And I was visiting
That's
my
funny.
friend Barbara, and she said, "Oh my God, this show! Have you seen it? I swear to God, that's Kenny." And she told me about that rumor, and it was oddly enough the episode where Felicia Rashad was guest starring along with Charles Robinson from Night Court.
Right.
And like any mystery show, you watch 5 minutes of it and you say, we'll go later. We got to see what happens.
Yes.
So,
You have to find
know.
out who did it.
right, you have to find out exact. And that's true of anything, like even down to like Murder, She Wrote. You'll watch any mystery just to find the ending of it. That's why there's so many books out there that are mysteries of people who solve them with cats or bake or something like that, because you get hooked on finding out who did it.
Cozy mystery.
So,
Lori
Cozy.
is big into those cat mystery books, by the way. My wife.
Yeah.
Sneaky Pie.
Yes.
Sneaky Pie, the gumshoe cat. So it was a marathon of
oh no.
Psych, and we watched maybe like 3 episodes in a row just because we just got hooked on the mystery. But I really, really enjoyed it, and I was surprised at how much I liked Corbin Burnson in the show, because growing up in the 80s, you didn't really like Corbin Burnson all that much. He was kind of a jackass on
Right.
LA Law.
Or Major
Sure.
League.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, I forgot all about Major
Yep,
League. Yes.
yep.
Again.
But yes, I know it's kind of not in good fashion to talk about the Cosby Show, but yes, it was morbid curiosity out of that rumor that Dule Hill was the same guy that played Kenny on the Cosby Show, which is not true, by the way.
No, it's not true. And they actually made fun
That's
of
another
it.
good rumor, though.
They
It
made
is a
fun of
good-
it in the show as well.
Oh, did they? They
Yes,
did?
they did. Yeah, they
And this
love
is-
doing stuff like that.
For those of you who watch the Cosby Show but who aren't 100% sure who I'm talking about, Bud.
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
who Kenny.
good.
Yeah,
Bud.
Kenny was Rudy, the youngest daughter's would-be love interest.
Sure.
Her best friend slash boyfriend
Yes.
slash her husband slash Bud.
Right.
Right. Good.
And
Yeah.
he's also something that he's one of those perpetual quotes that I've been saying for about 30 years. Whenever I talk about eating salad and we're at the grocery, I'll ask Chris, "Are we out of Croutons? Do we need to buy Croutons?"
It's called the Crouton.
Yes, there was an episode of The Cosby Show where Dr. Huxtable took Rudy and all of her friends to this fancy restaurant, and Kenny had never seen croutons on a salad. And he said, "What are these?" "They're croutons, they're toasted bread." He said, "I've seen toasted bread that doesn't look like this." And then all the kids are talking about all their allergies and what they can't eat. And one girl says, "I can't eat olives. There's olives in your salad. Have you eaten any?" "Yes, but I feel good so far." And then they get around to Kenny, and he says, "Dr. Huxtable, I'm not allergic to olives, but I do know that I'm not supposed to eat croutons."
That's funny.
Because he doesn't want the toasted bread.
He's one of those quotes that I've just said for a million years.
Croutons.
So
I love that.
croutons. Yep.
That's too great.
Yeah, and I love that they subvert stuff like that whenever something was talked about that was anywhere near the show, they would make mention of it. You know, they were
right. It made its
they
way
were
on
so meta. Like it was before Community even, and they were like super meta. So I really dug that. And as you know from this Twin Peaks episode, which was like so, I mean, it danced on the meta line through the whole episode. So it was just
there's all kinds of I mean, the meta is strong in this, but in different ways. And I think I get where you're coming from, because it's like obviously there's various actors from Twin Peaks that actually appear as characters in this episode. And there's all kinds of in-jokes.
Right? Lots and lots of in-jokes.
And lots of subtle references, obscure stuff too.
Well, the very first thing, the blinds, the silent blinds.
That's actually not the very first thing. There's something before.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. All right, so we'll run this down. Okay, so I did have some trivia. Do we want to do that first before we start breaking this down, or we want to just dive right in?
Well,
I'm cool.
Charles, I think we have to back up.
Okay.
Beep.
Yeah.
What's your history with Psych?
That was it. You just
told him about this show.
Yeah. Well, no, see, I remember I did watch this live because I'd heard about it, that it was going to air.
This episode?
So I tuned in just for this episode.
And you found it entertaining.
Yes, I thought it was great, and I got tons of the references. I think I get more references now that we've done this podcast, because it's gotten me to think about stuff.
We're so deep in it, and we've revisited it in such a under the microscope way.
This minutia
that there are, and that's one of the greatest things about this show, is that its pop culture references are very detailed.
Right.
And Sean is, I very much relate to Sean, because so many things remind him of other pop culture references, which is my life essentially.
Yeah.
So this is who he and James Roday, the actor who plays Sean Spencer, co-wrote this episode.
Right.
Which, by the way,
he and Bill Callahan, yeah.
Yes. Which, by the way, aired 20 years to the day after the airing of episode 16 of Twin Peaks, where they revealed who did kill Laura Palmer.
Right. That was one of my trivia bits I wanted to talk about. So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're cool. We're co-hosts. You go right ahead. You do your thing. I'll just stand here, and you're good.
It's that kind of that super uber nuanced detail that something like a Mad TV was the first place I'd seen something like that, where you had very subtle but very important details in your references. So this was perfect for Psych. And Psych has done this a couple of different times too. So my second favorite episode of Psych was the Friday, quote unquote, Friday the 13th episode.
Okay. Yeah, the one with the where they go to camp, right?
Where they go to camp, and spoiler alert, it's not a Friday the 13th parody. It's an April Fool's Day parody. But for me, being at horror movies, I was like, I don't care, bring it on.
Yeah, it was so great. That one's great.
They also had a Clue episode.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Which was fantastic.
And
was it setting up Clue the movie, I take it? Or
yeah, the movie.
All right.
And they also have a lot of episodes that reference the Brat Pack. A lot. And they have had probably 4 or 5 members on the show as well.
Yes.
So
even this episode references the Brat Pack, where he's just amazed that no one in this town has ever seen Pretty in Pink.
Right.
Yes, he's like, no one has seen any movies that I know. And it's and I understand that frustration when you're around people who've not seen the movies I've seen. They don't know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand my language.
That's great. So I do have a couple of other trivia bits, unless you got...
Well, Charles, we just have to back up.
Okay. But we'll keep going.
Respect.
Beep, beep, beep. All right. Yes.
Before we go into the comic genius that is Psych, we need to bring it down
Okay.
to a somber moment and recognize and send our sympathy for the death of Pamela Gidley.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
Pamela Gidley is the actress that played
Teresa Banks. Yes, and Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me.
Has passed away. It was a few weeks ago, but this is our first podcast since she did pass away. And they are still saying undisclosed reasons, so it hasn't. Her publicist has not released it, or they haven't.
I didn't realize why she died. That was that. Hasn't been conclusive yet.
It could just be that they've chosen not to release it, or they're not. I don't know what it is, but there's still not a reason out there yet as to why what happened to her. The reason it's a question is she was very, very young.
Yes. Yeah, she would be what? No, let's see. This is movies in the 90s, so maybe
I'm not even 100% sure she was 50. Let me look her up real quick.
Yeah, she was 52.
52. She was 52? Okay. Yeah, so she was very young. It was unexpected. So just wanted to
hopefully it's
remember her.
Hopefully nothing nefarious.
And that's a strange thing, because I think that this being a Twin Peaks person, we almost half expect there to be something bad about it.
What was Ray Wise doing at this moment in time?
Where was Ray Wise when Pamela Gidley died?
Because
that's a good question,
right? Because his character killed her character in Twin Peaks. So I think that's a fair question.
I think it is. I think it's definitely a fair question. But yes, our hearts go out to her family and friends.
It's not really a fair question, but
we do not like having to do this, but unfortunately, we've had to do it a lot.
Yes.
So
yeah, because Twin Peaks is one of the shows, kind of like Babylon 5, where there are a lot of actors that have passed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, there are a lot of character actors on the show, and in the
movies, the show is 27 years old,
right? But we've already lost character actors from the new series that just came out last year.
Yes, we did.
So
not just Harry Dean Stanton, who was in his 90s.
No, there was the detective.
Yes. So it's been this is an unfortunately common part of our podcast. So I just wanted to make sure we didn't forget about.
We almost need to have like an in memoriam segment, kind of like Talking Dead does.
right. Like every time, like the Oscars.
Get that music going. And,
Her family says she died peacefully in her home. So
I'm just assuming there are private people. I don't think there's anything nefarious or anything.
Well, that's good. We don't want
sordid about how she passed away, but I
just wanted to make sure that was on the record, that we weren't implying.
No. We weren't implying.
No, we're absolutely not implying.
I was
anything
hoping
like
there
that
wasn't.
here.
That's all.
Yeah. It's just one of those things that it's very jarring when someone that young passes away, and when it's someone who's like really close to your age, you're like, oh God, what happened? Is it going to happen to me? So it's very scary when that happens. So that's all. Yeah, no implication other than Twin Peaks being any sort of nefarious thing going on with her. So.
All right. So let's see what
else. What's your trivia, Charles?
Well,
lighten us up again.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. So should mention this was directed by Matt Shackman. This episode, and apparently they tried to get Michael Onkeen and Machen Amick, who of course plays Sheriff Truman, and Shelley the waitress, Shelley Johnson, to appear in this episode.
I was more surprised by that.
Yeah. When
this episode aired. Now I'm surprised by Machen not doing it, but I'm not surprised by Michael Onkeen, considering that Michael Onkeen did not come back for the return of Twin Peaks.
Right.
So, and they also had thought about asking David Lynch to play like the mayor or something like that.
Right, yeah, Mayor Douglas Fur,
James Roday was like, I don't know if he'll like this episode. Like, James Roday was really nervous about what his reaction to this character
He chickened out.
Yeah. He totally chickened out, and I can't say that I blame him. I'd be very, very excited by having David Lynch.
Well, there's something that comes up that references this episode in a way that he did for Twin Peaks season 3. And we're gonna talk about that.
All right.
I'm wondering if you caught it.
All right.
So I'll just kind of give this as a little teaser.
Is it future or is it past?
Yeah. Sorry, it takes a while to get there, but yes.
Are you done now?
Yeah, I'm done now.
Yes,
So, Laura,
the future or past.
Karen cannot stand the backwards talking in the Black Lodge.
Then-
It creeps her out.
Then I can understand not watching Twin Peaks because it is all over that.
Exactly.
Well, no, I would watch it anyway. It's just for some reason that wigs me out. I think I'd be desensitized to it if I.
But that's kind of the point of
Maybe.
Twin Peaks is to wig you out.
Yeah, if you're not wigged out watching Twin Peaks,
You're
you
doing
need
it-
a therapist.
Yeah,
They're
you're doing it wrong. Basically, you're doing Twin Peaks wrong if you don't. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And I have seen a lot of season 1. I just didn't go past there because I got, real life crashed
Yes.
in.
Yep.
So I promised you I would watch it.
Real
and
life is overrated.
I know it is. It really
Maybe I
is.
should make it a deal. Like if I'll watch more Psych episodes if you watch Twin Peaks.
You should watch anyway.
This
But
is, a
I'll
game
watch-
where you're, this is a game where you're both winners. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, that's true.
You checkmated
That is
me. All right.
You should. I promise you, I am not going to renege on my promise to watch more Twin Peaks.
Okay, so let's run the cast down real quick before we get in. So we mentioned James Roday, who plays Sean Spencer. We had Dulé Hill, who plays Burton Gus Guster,
Mhm.
his partner. And Maggie Lawson plays Juliet O'Hara. Or is it O'Hara?
O'Hara.
O'Hara, okay. Timothy Odmanson as Carlton Lassiter.
Lassie.
Yep. And we had Scott Leister, who plays Randy Jackson. And that's one of the things I cracked up at this episode. That we
All
had
the
Randy
games hosts.
Jackson. We had Bob Barker and Andrew Jackson. So
Yeah,
that's
So
great.
great.
Right.
Yeah. Pretty epic. And then Ryan McDonald plays Jack Smith. And Jack Smith has a interesting name for 2 reasons, which we'll talk about.
Mhm.
So, and then we had, on the Twin Peaks side of the cast, we had Sherilyn Fenn playing Maudette Hornsby. Emphasis on the horn, you guys.
Emphasis on the horn and
Because she, of course, played Audrey Horn
right.
on the show.
Maudette, Maddie, kind of a same,
Kinda.
similar.
Yep. Dana Ashbrook plays Robert Bob Barker.
Which is a nod to both Bob
Yes.
and, of course, Bobby Briggs,
Right.
which was Dana Ashbrook's character in Twin
And
Peaks.
Bob Barker.
Yeah, Bob Barker.
And
Come
Bob
on down.
Yep. This probably should do the Twin Peaks or the Price is Right film music on that.
Bum, 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 bum.
Thank you.
That's the one.
Perfect.
That's the one.
So we had Sheryl Lee, who plays Donna Doc Good.
This I loved. Where
So-
her name was a nod to her best friend on Twin Peaks.
Exactly.
Love
Because she, of
that.
course, this is Laura Palmer on the original Twin Peaks series. And she's also named Doc Gooden, which is a name of a baseball player from the Mets from back in the day.
Okay, sports nerd.
Yeah.
Well, but his name was
I
Doc
like to,
Gooden.
I can't help it. I'm a well-rounded individual. I like
And I
geeky
appreciate
stuff,
your
and I like
well-rounded
sports
geekiness.
stuff.
It's true though. His name was literally Doc Gooden, though. I
Yeah.
mean, the whole thing. So
Right.
it was kind of a, hey, look, we named her Doc Gooden. Ha ha!
Right.
Isn't that funny?
Well, I mean, if they can work in Bob Barker, I don't think Doc Gooden's that far of a stretch.
No, not too bad.
It's really not.
Yeah. Let's see who else. Lenny Von Dohlen, who played Harold Smith on Twin Peaks, plays
Harold Smith.
Sheriff Andrew Jackson, an obvious nod to Sheriff Harry S. Truman.
Shouldn't be too hard to remember that.
Nope. Very nice. Ray Wise, who of course played Leland Palmer on Twin Peaks, plays Father Peter Wesley.
A recurring
Father.
role on Psych.
Yes, a
Yes,
father.
this is a recurring role on Psych also, but yes, he's the father, which I thought was fantastic.
So Ray Wise is in other episodes of Psych.
Yes,
He's in one
before
other
this.
episode playing the same character,
Okay.
who had been Gus and Sean had been like in his Sunday school classes.
More
So
than one.
they knew him from childhood. Yeah,
He's in like 3 or 4 episodes.
Oh, that's cool.
I think this one was only his second episode though.
Perhaps.
Yeah, I think
Because
the
there's a scene where when Sean calls him up, and I kind of got the vibe that they knew each other.
Yes,
They were familiar
they
with you.
did.
Okay, so that
They
made
knew each other from childhood.
That makes
They knew each
perfect
other from
sense.
childhood.
Okay, so he wasn't just for that episode. Robin Lively, who of course played Lana.
Lana Milford. And what was funny when this episode first aired.
Oh wait, different Lana.
Yeah, different Lana. When this
Danger
episode first aired, it was being advertised as having original cast members of Twin Peaks.
Right.
And I was like, ugh, Lana, really? She's not even original. She wasn't in the first season. Like, I was so like Lana hatred about her. It was so funny.
Well, you kind of wanted to hate her character on the show and on Twin Peaks, so it was kind of fun.
God, yes.
And here they have her as Michelle Barker, Bob's wife,
who is very much the Sarah Palmer character in this.
And also, she's also the Norma Jennings as well.
Oh,
or Shelley.
She's
Johnson.
the Norma or the Shelley because she and Bob own the Sawmill Diner.
Right. Yes.
Which sells really good pie.
Right.
Now, Charles, I have a question for you.
Yes.
This may be a gap in my Twin Peaks memory, but
I didn't think there was one.
I didn't think there was either until I started really thinking about this episode.
Okay.
Am I forgetting something about cinnamon?
No.
Okay.
No.
May I interject?
Please do.
In the pilot episode of Psych,
yes,
Sean says that he could have taken Gus if he had just had another second when they went to that cinnamon pie festival when they were 6.
Okay,
so it is actually
a Psych reference,
so
not a Twin Peaks reference.
Okay.
A self-referential, yes.
I was kind of wondering.
Makes more sense.
Yeah,
okay.
I was with you, Zan. I didn't know if there was something I was missing as well, but I didn't think so.
Yeah, and I did not remember that being from the first episode of Psych, but yeah, I was like,
such a small, tiny line. Such a tiny line, but it's like one of his things that he says is that, and of course that's what lures them there, because they've already shown that they love cinnamon pie. So, hey.
Well, if they love cinnamon and monkey bread so much, how do they not realize that that's not actually monkey bread when they're handed it? I mean, come on, you guys. There's a scene where he gets
roll with it.
He gets monkey bread, and it's a loaf, like it's banana bread or something like that.
He's heard it both ways.
Yeah.
Monkey bread is baked in a bundt pan. We all know this.
He's heard it both ways.
I don't know where their gap in monkey bread knowledge is on the show, but come on.
That's a huge Psych reference, by the way, Charles. He's heard it both ways.
Okay,
got it. Both ways. Yes, that's a that's Sean covering his ass.
Yes, it's exactly. Sean. Whenever someone contradicts him and it's completely wrong from what he says, He says, "I've heard it both ways."
Most notably in the episode where they pretend to be George Takei's new assistants.
Yes, and they say Takai.
Calling him George Takei.
Right, and they say, well, if you're his assistant, would you know that his last name is Takei? And he says, I've heard it both ways.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm getting the feeling I could do this on autopilot. This is awesome.
No, we need you.
Nah.
So not only
and we have one more I should mention. A very important person, Catherine Coulson.
Yes,
the late Catherine Coulson, unfortunately, who plays Woman with Wood.
Woman with Wood, yes.
So
she comes out of the library with her grandson, sort of giving him a what for. Right. But at first, you don't see the child; you just see her holding the log and her scolding someone. And of course, Twin Peaks people are like, "Oh, she's obviously talking to the log," and then like a little kid comes out behind it, and then it's like, "Oh, it's normal now." Okay. I thought that was so great. That was so wonderful.
And I love that they cut to Gus, who's like, okay, that makes sense.
He just feels so much more comfortable. Yeah. Because the thing about Dual Spires, by the way, which has a
which is obviously like almost like a synonym for Twin Peaks.
It's exactly a synonym for Twin Peaks. And when you see their sign that has population on it, if you thought it was impossible to have a smaller population than Twin Peaks, here you go. Their population 288, but their font is still the same.
Right.
Everything like that.
Yeah,
And,
Twin Peaks is like what, 502?
It's like 12 something.
Is it 5? Okay.
Yeah, it's I forget exactly. It's like 12 something. I always wanted it to be 12,191.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. But we never get to see that many people in Twin Peaks, so I kind of wonder where are all these other people that are supposedly in town.
Well, I mean, you have to think about at least 1,000 of them work at the sawmill.
Right.
So it's
They're hiding
I'm sorry,
from the murderer.
It's 51,201
That's right.
in Twin Peaks.
I knew there was a 5 in there somewhere, but yeah.
Is a much bigger town, and one of the things about Dual Spires is that it's barely on a map, and there's no cell reception, and I took that as sort of a nod to make this more of a throwback town, like it might be the 90s. The only person in town with a cell phone is the outsider who is investigating things, like maybe that's his tape recorder.
Right.
So
all right,
it's very much a throwback to that.
Okay, so let's dive right in because there's a lot we got to cover here. Sheriff, we got a lot to talk about. Yep.
So yes, we open on a close up of a chocolate bunny.
Chocolate bunny. So.
And I am well aware, Charles, that it is not about the bunny.
It's not about the bunny.
But right now it is about the bunny.
Is it about the bunny? No, it's not about the bunny.
For just this moment.
For just this moment, it is. Yes.
Which I love.
Yes.
Is we start on a chocolate bunny, and Sean reading facts to Gus about, did you know that there are silent shades invented by some woman in the early 90s in Washington?
Right. Yeah, and then,
I love that.
And then I like Gus's retort is like, since when does the sound of opening shades need to be alleviated?
Well, you do not know Nadine.
Yes, right. Yeah, if he knew Nadine, right away he would be just like, no, okay, I get it. Just shut up. Just don't stop talking, please. Yes.
Yes, I understand. It's Nadine.
Right.
So Gus then is a little perplexed because he gets an email.
Right.
To the Psych account from me at underthenail.com.
I was hoping you caught that one.
Well, yeah, I caught that one.
Oh, yeah, I figured you, yes. I have to remember who I'm talking to, yes.
Which is, of course, a reference to the R and the T found under the nails
of Laura Palmer.
Teresa Banks and Laura Palmer.
Yep.
And there's a clipping from the Great Northern, their local paper.
Right.
And about the Cinnamon Festival, which is, of course, what lures them there.
Yeah, the 90th Annual Cinnamon Festival.
90th annual, right,
yeah.
Right. And so then, of course, they're going to go to the Cinnamon Festival. But first, we have the opening credits.
Well, not just yet. Just
Can I also talk about it? Zoom in?
Yeah.
Okay, zoom in some more. Okay, zoom in some more.
Zoom in.
Shut up, Sean.
That's great.
Enhance.
Yes.
No, I just figured we'd break up the episode between before they got there and after they got there.
Fine.
So that's why I was going to do the opening before we actually got into Dual Spires.
Oh, okay. You wanted to do it a little earlier.
Not necessarily chronologically. I figured it'd be a good way to break up the two sections of the episodes. So, not only did they redo the opening credits,
right,
shot-wise, which is very, very shot-for-shot similar to the opening of Twin Peaks.
Right.
But they got Julie Cruz to come in and do the theme song. The slowed-down version of their theme song. And
Julie Cruz obviously appeared in Twin Peaks as a Roadhouse singer, but also did songs like Falling and Into the Night. And, it was a great nod.
It was a fantastic nod, yes.
Would you like to hear the theme?
Yes, please do.
In between the lines, there's a lot of obscurity. I'm not inclined to resign to maturity. If it's alright, then you're all around. Why you bounce around to
Yes. So Julie Cruz, that was awesome. Um, I keep looking for the white horse to appear.
Right.
You
Give
know,
it some time. Shows up eventually.
yeah, pretty much. So yeah, there was a nod to the white horse. In case you're wondering, Karen, that was the this horse that turns up in Sarah Palmer's vision in season 2, when right before um, Maddie Ferguson is killed by. I'm going to leave that blank since you haven't seen it, but
Dot, dot, dot.
dot dot dot. Yes. So, um, but
And,
yeah.
just so you know
So-
that the song
Yes.
that she's singing normally is sung by the creator of the show's band.
Yeah, the friendly
Steve Frank.
the friendly Indians.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's cool. Yeah. So I kind of like that. Now that I'm guessing that on Psych they normally have like variations of that theme
They do. They actually had an episode where Sean,
to complement the theme of the episode. Right.
yeah, Sean was on a telenovela and they did it in Spanish for that episode. There were, a couple other examples where they redid the theme, but that one in particular really made me laugh out loud.
Yeah.
So yeah, they do that, especially since Steve Franks wrote it, so he
Right.
can do whatever he wants with it.
I mean, I just one of the things I just love about this episode, they went all out. They just they're completely shameless about all these references. They're just like, okay, it's just pure fan indulgence.
You know what gets me is that
and they're not
he's
ashamed
throwing
of it.
stuff around like, how come you haven't seen this movie? And I feel like saying, okay, but you're talking about you're in Twin Peaks and you don't know about Twin Peaks.
Right.
Why are you not referencing Twin Peaks? So even that in itself feels kind of meta to me.
So, so Sean and Gus end up going to this quirky small town. They end up by a lake, which of course has that "Welcome to Dual Spires" sign that we talked about, with a population of 288.
Mm-hmm.
And we get some kind of very Twin Peaks-ish Angelo Badalamenti style jazz music playing.
All through this episode.
Yep. They arrive at the festival. Sean notes that everybody looks so happy but perplexed.
Well, before they arrive at the
Which I think is
festival,
a great description of Twin Peaks residents.
Oh yeah, totally. But before they arrive at the festival, they have to walk through the woods to get there.
Right.
So
the woods, yes.
Yes, there is evil in these woods.
Well, they don't have to, as they find out later.
No, they don't have to. They have to just drive down a 7-mile dirt road to get there.
Right.
That's pretty funny. And Gus is kind of taken aback because everybody is looking at him like he's the first black man they've ever seen.
And this is a fantastic nod to the essentially whitewashing of television and film up until maybe the year 2000.
Right, but also especially Twin Peaks, because there's like one black character I think on Twin Peaks.
Who is it? I
in
can't
the original
tell you who it is.
that was that DEA agent, or that was the FBI, I guess, was working with the Canadians.
Trying to get the Renaults.
Yeah, and Cooper gets framed. Okay. And so they're all investigating
That's
Cooper.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, one guy, like seriously,
the one black guy on Twin Peaks.
And they're so confused by this that a little girl rides up to him on a bicycle and say, "Mister, are you Frederick Douglass?" Yes. That's the last time they learned about black people.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
So yeah, I had to think they were setting up Twin Peaks' lack of black people.
Totally.
Yeah. And they also do that throughout.
They do a couple of like pot shots at the show, so they're not completely reverential, I should say.
No, they're definitely not.
So they end up arriving at the Sawmill Diner, which we talked about, which is obviously the Double R Diner on Twin Peaks. And
very similar appearance as well.
And here's where it gets all: is it future or is it past? Because the jukebox, if you notice, was playing "I Love How You Love Me."
Right? That
by the Paris Sisters.
Times, like, am I actually hearing this song?
Right.
I couldn't believe it. And I am so Now I'm so
Yes.
curious if that is David Lynch telling Psych that he approved of what they did.
And that's what I think happened. Yes, I think that was a nod to the Psych episode because
Seriously,
so-
I was watching this episode, I stopped, I was like, I didn't just hear that. Rewound it, watched it again. I think
Yes.
I just heard that.
so
Got out my phone, did a Shazam of it. I'm like, holy crap for crap. That, oh my god.
so
That is
so
like meta upon meta upon meta of itself.
it was so freaky because Karen, this song "I Love How You Love Me" by the Pair of Sisters doesn't appear in the original Twin Peaks series, so it just happened to be a song they picked for this episode of Psych that actually ended up in Twin Peaks season 3 last year.
I'm sure they just picked it because it sounds very dreamy and sort
Right.
of Angelo
Right.
Badalamenti, but
come on, man.
and not only is it that song, but it's playing in the diner where the mother of the person they're playing the song about works and is part owner.
Yes.
And that blew my freaking mind.
It has to be a callback to the Psych episode, I'm assuming.
I do not believe in coincidences that detail oriented.
especially with David Lynch.
Oh yeah, David Lynch almost never does anything that isn't on purpose.
No, he's so like deliberate about everything.
Mhm.
Yeah, I watched that scene and I just was like, "What the effing what?" And I'm just like,
"Holy crap! Oh my god,
it's blowing my mind, man."
That was unbelievable.
I went total Scanners GIF. I went, my mind blown.
Oh, exactly.
That was
yes,
crazy.
Ephemeral.
Yes.
It's totally ephemeral.
Yeah. So yeah, is it future? Is it past? Indeed.
God, who knows?
We have Robert Bob Barker greeting Sean and Gus as they sit down at the counter. Bob says the diner used to be a sawmill that burned down in '58, killing 8 people, and apparently his granddad built the place.
Mm-hmm.
He offers up some piping hot apple cider and a slice of cinnamon pie, which obviously a nod to a slice of cherry pie and a damn good coffee. So
yes, and
okay.
it when Gus takes a bite of it, Sean is like, "What? That good?" Like Gus is he tells him that this pie will bring tears to their eyes.
Yeah, yes, it just made
Gus
bring
almost
tears.
cries. The pie is so good to the point of later on when O'Hara comes to town with them, because I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
He says, "You should order a slice of this pie." I did. You immediately ate it. Like they cannot be eating this pie.
They keep talking about, like, there's multiple pie references in this episode, and they even they're like working for pie and cider in this episode.
Right, they say we don't have a lot of money, we'll look for pie and cider.
Oh, their covers are just terrible on the show. That's kind of the gag, is that
right. They're just really bad at what they do.
Well, I guess we should probably explain that, Charles, for
it doesn't
anybody who
really.
might not
It's
seen this
unnecessary.
Yeah, it's very unnecessary. And they always have like stupid, like not quite as bad as Supernatural names, but like stupid fake names for themselves that Sean obviously thought up in the last 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But we should probably say about the show that the premise of Psych is that Sean Spencer is a very talented investigator. However, he's a complete and total slacker. His father was a police officer and trained him from a young age to be extremely observant, which is almost another nod to Twin Peaks because he is very Dale Cooper in his observant abilities.
Right.
He would be the guy that would tell you that clock is 6 inches to the left. I mean, he could tell you that sort of thing. So he's a total slacker. And in the first episode, we find out that most of Sean's income comes from reward money for local crimes, because
calling in tips.
He gets the reward. Like if there's a $10,000 reward for something, he'll call in and say it was the teacher that kidnapped the student or something, because he's very, very good at that. But he's not a police officer. He has no stick-to-itiveness. He's a total slacker. Well, one time he calls one in, and they pick him up thinking, "You know too much about this. You have to be part of it." And he's like, no, I'm a psychic. So he's masquerading as a psychic in order to be a detective without having to go through any sort of formal schooling or training.
Right, because you have to go through you have to follow an investigator around for
Right.
hundreds of hours
But
and
not
do
just
all.
that, he's a huge slacker, so he wants the money from doing
Right.
it, but he
Right.
doesn't want to have
He
to
doesn't
do
want
any
the
work.
do the work
No.
for it.
Any work.
Exactly.
Plus, and he already knows he can do this job. So this is his shortcut.
So he doesn't want to waste his
Right.
time.
Total
No.
slacker, and that's
Yeah.
why. And Gus is there basically because Gus has a car. I mean,
Yep.
they've been best friends since they were like 6 years old or something like that. But Gus is responsible. Gus is actually a pharmaceutical salesman. So, he has a car, he dresses right, he knows how to talk to people, things like that. So Gus is sort of there as his partner who does all the business, and Sean's just the one that's why you see Sean doing this all the time, because he's pretending to get some sort
Right.
of
Yeah, it's all a shtick. Yeah, I got that.
message. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
That's all right.
Yeah. But his
Go ahead.
powers of observation are rivaled only by Agent Dale Cooper.
Yeah. It did seem almost like a Sherlock Holmes type thing where he just kind of zeroes in on the tiniest detail and kind of replay
Right.
like he saves it in his head and replays it at the right moment to
And
kind
my
of connect the
favorite
dots.
my favorite bit of that is at the very end of this episode, and I will tell you that later. No spoilers just yet.
Oh, I like how you tease that. All right. So Bob tells his wife Michelle, who's wearing a diner uniform,
Pink, not blue, but still, I mean, come on.
to their order of two slices of cherry or cinnamon pie, and hot apple cider. Sheriff Jackson comes by, says it's rare to get visitors, and this is an important plot point, they don't have the internet.
They do not have the internet, so where did that email come from?
Exactly. Dun, dun, dun.
Okay.
Yeah. I set her
Mr.
up
Rooney,
with
how you doing? I was wondering if
exactly.
it could be possible for my sister to pick up any of my assignments that I might from my classes that I might have missed. Thank you.
9 times.
Is it bad that I know that that's from Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Nope.
I mean, is that bad?
Nope. If it's a podcast that I'm involved with, you should know about Ferris Bueller. Because I do this on all my podcasts, just
As
about.
soon as you played it, I'm like, Ferris Bueller's on line 2. I'm like, wow, that is really...
Yep, I
Other
tipped.
Other
I was
kids
just
went
like,
outside in the 80s. I apparently didn't.
I went to Karen and was like, we need to do this. And she liked it.
Nice.
So it is part of my soundboard now.
Yep. So, yes. So that's my contribution to the podcast, I guess.
My contribution is this.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
Oh, yeah. Her porn music is better than my porn music. I'll give her that.
I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree with that, yeah.
I can see the quality of porn music. All right. That's a
I don't
sentence
know
that's a sentence I never thought I'd ever say.
Is that something to be proud of? I don't know.
I don't know. My standards are pretty low.
Okay.
All right.
That's what I've heard. I've heard it both ways.
And boom, we come full
Karen.
circle. Yes, well done.
Yes.
Well played.
And
Well
that's a
played.
point for Karen.
And this mark went out for Karen. there.
One callback point for me.
Yep, well done. So Michelle brings 2 slices of cinnamon pie. Sean and Gus obviously love the pie. All about the pie. They go outside of the festival. We have an old mayor named Douglas Fir,
Gotta
Which
find
is-
out what
which
kind
is-
of mayors these are.
which are funny for 2 reasons. One,
Funny for
because
2 reasons, yes.
yes, because one, it references the old mayor, Mayor Dwayne Milford, in Twin
Had a brother.
Peaks. Yes,
Had a brother named Douglas.
brother named Douglas.
Actually,
but,
Dougie, but he was Douglas, yeah.
Yeah. Dougie becomes someone else, so we might as well call him
Right.
Douglas. Yeah.
Right.
But also references Dale Cooper's fascination with trees. Got to know what kind of trees these are. They're really something.
Big, majestic.
And
Douglas firs, Cooper.
the Douglas firs, and it's Douglas firs.
The,
So
the
that's
one
where
thing I
that's
kept
from.
waiting for this mayor to do is come up to the podium and be,
Is this thing on?
is this thing on? Yeah. I kept waiting for that, but and then of course we have the cinnamon owl.
Yeah,
Which
I
he
would have.
presents.
I would have liked the scene if he did. Like, I don't want to talk. I want to shoot.
I want to shoot. This thing on.
That's my second favorite Mayor Milford quote.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
And so Mayor Douglas Fir hands a cinnamon owl statue. So we have an owl statue.
You think it's an owl, but it's really cinnamon because the owls are not what they seem. See what I did there?
Yes, I see what you did there.
Yes.
Well played. The owls are not what they seem. Gives it to a high school boy named Randy,
Jackson.
and who claims the prize. Sean notices the chairs. There's chairs for every person in town. How he notices that, I have no idea.
Because he's Sean.
Sean is a master of observation. I'm telling you.
Is he kind of like a Rain Man type autism thing going?
Seriously,
like his eidetic. He's eidetic.
Oh, okay.
Yes, his father, like I said, his father was a detective.
Yeah.
And like every day before Sean went to school, he couldn't go to school until he told his father what in the room had moved.
Okay.
Very similar to Dale Cooper.
He would say, "Close your eyes," and then he'd say, "How many hats are in the room?" And he'd have to say not only how many hats, but where they were and what kind of hat they were on each person and stuff like that. So this is.
So he trained his brain. And
it is not out of the realm of possibility that he knows how many chairs are there.
Right, and that's what's happening in the show when you see those close-ups where you close, you get the little negative image, and you see so you're seeing what Sean's mind is doing, and that
him counting or seeing something zoomed in on, like he's zooming in on something to kind of pull it out.
Mm-hmm.
And also emphasize to the audience, like, hey, this is important.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because there's no way the audience is as good at this as Sean is.
No.
Right. So Sean, one of the chairs is emptied by the Barkers, so they stop by. Michelle is crying. This isn't her biggest crying scene, but she starts crying.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get a little taste, but they say their niece, Paula Merrill, which is a hilarious anagram of Laura Palmer.
I love that it's the anagram. Yes, and if you weren't sure, he gets a text that says, "Who killed Paula Merrill?"
Who killed Paula Merrill? Yeah.
And he
who killed Paula
shows
Merrill?
it.
And you could,
he shows it to the camera.
So you can actually you can see the spelling. And
you can see the spelling, and then quid pro quo, Clarice, you can figure out that it's an anagram.
Right.
Yep. So I thought that was good. She's been missing about a day and a half, and then this is where Sean and Gus agree to work for Cider and Pie. And a chair for Paula's friend Jack, which has to be a nod to Jack Nance, I'm guessing.
I am assuming it's a nod to Jack. Jack is
his last name is Smith, which is also maybe a nod to Harold Smith.
I think it is because he is totally the Harold of this episode. When you go into his house with all the photos on the wall and just him being very eccentric.
Well, he even talks about being Paula's confidant, just like Harold Smith was.
Done. Yeah, he is 100% the Harold. So I think the Jack is Jack Nance, and the Smith is for Harold Smith.
That's what I think too.
And
so he rides it on a bicycle.
Karen, everybody knows this already about me, but Harold is one of my favorites ever. He's such a sweet, wonderful character, and he's why I hate Donna Hayward so much, because she totally mistreats him. He's a wonderful guy.
And he was played by the guy who plays Sheriff Jackson in this episode.
Even when I literally the first time I saw this episode, he comes on screen, I go, oh, Harold! Like, seriously, I was so excited.
And hey, he didn't have any garden rake scars in his face.
Thank God, right? I know.
So that's another obscure Twin Peaks reference.
Well, maybe that didn't actually happen.
Yeah. It's negated, like it was retconned. So Jack Smith rides in a bicycle, says something happened at the lake. And it's kind of very Pete Martellish, I think, a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. He's kind of a goofball, like Pete Martell is also.
Yeah, and Michelle starts crying, knows it's Paula. Just kind of like Sarah Palmer knowing her her daughter, Laura. So we go to the lake, and the victim's body is, of course, wrapped in plastic on the shore.
Because she's dead.
She's dead. Wrapped in plastic. Yep. I miss you, Jack Nance.
I miss you so much.
Doc Donna Gooden. I just love the fact that she's called Donna. Opens the
That's
plastic,
great.
and I love the way she did this because it's a shot-for-shot reproduction of how Laura Palmer's plastic wrap was opened. Right, doing
Not
the
only-
slow, using the slow-mo, and just perfect like visual reproduction. They had to have spent a lot of time matching this up.
Oh, absolutely. It is. It's almost shot for shot. It's the same rocky beach, and as this scene continues, Bob is there on the
Right.
beach, and he runs up to her, and he makes the same noises, the same facial expressions, and the same hand gestures that Ray Wise does
As
when
Leland,
he's in the hospital in the morgue
yeah,
and sees Laura
like
Palmer in the
wailing.
morgue.
He's going, Paula, just like
And he's
Leland
he's
did
like
with
thinking he's gonna
Laura.
touch her, and then backs away, and
Yeah, he puts his hands like right beside her face, like he's gonna like kind
Yeah.
of caressing her, but not touching her, just
it's
like Ray Wise
it's a fantastic homage what Dana Ashbrook does.
did. And
to
again,
act
that's
just
one
like
of the
Ray
really
Wise.
subtle things that only really hardcore Twin Peaks fans would notice.
Yeah, nerds like us that have watched this show
Yes.
1,000 times. Yeah,
Exactly. Because when they're actually referencing gestures made by the actors, I thought it was like
Right,
that.
yeah.
That is damned impressive. I'm sorry. That's
Yes.
well played.
That's what I said. That's a great thing about this show. When they are going to homage something,
They do it right.
they are down to the dirt under your fingernails. I mean,
They
they
go
leave no
all
stone unturned.
out.
Don't you mean down
All
to the
in.
letters under your fingernails?
Down to the letters under your fingernails. Yes, I do mean that.
America no fair for me. So thank you. So Sheriff Jackson's there, and we see he has a Native American deputy
Love that there's a Native American deputy.
named Deputy Frost. So
Mark Frost, baby.
a reference to series co-creator Mark Frost of Twin Peaks, but also a direct homage to Deputy Hawk, now Deputy Chief Hawk.
Deputy Chief
Twin
Hawk,
Peaks.
yes.
And so that was good. And Jack's nearby. The Barkers show up. Jack says she was found half naked, so he covered her up, which explains the plastic wrap.
Right. She wasn't found in the plastic. He just felt it was indecent for her to be naked, so
Right,
he covered her in plastic.
right. And this is where Michelle starts wailing just like Grace Zabriskie as Sarah Palmer.
Exactly. She's pulling exactly the same, Paula, and
Yeah.
the nice thing about Laura and Paula, they're very similar cadence in their
Right.
vowel sounds, so
Yep.
she can also do a good homage to Grace Zabriskie, so good job, everybody. And I will admit that this scene
Yeah.
reminded me so much of them finding Laura. I'm like, am I crying right now? Like I was like
You were actually-
tearing up because it reminded me so much.
You got a
of
little
them finding-
verklempt, like the
I
little.
did. I did because every time I see them find Laura, I start to cry. It still gets to me after 28 years of watching it. But yeah, they did a fantastic job on that. Really good job.
Yeah. Sean and Gus show up, and then Bob starts wailing Paula, like we talked about, just like Leland. Does the hand thing. Gus starts crying.
How can you not?
That's a running gag as well, that Gus cannot see someone else cry without crying.
Okay.
Right.
That's-
Gus is very emotional.
Yes. He's very sensitive.
See, this is why I'm glad that you're both of you are psych experts, because I never would have got that.
Number one, he's terrified of everything that has to do with the supernatural. So ghosts, anything like that,
Mhm.
terrified. He will run screaming from a room like a little girl if that happens. And if anyone is crying anywhere around him, he will cry.
He's gonna start crying. Yes.
So Sean finally gets one bar on his phone.
There's seriously a 1 foot radius of
Right,
cell
right.
phone reception in this town.
So they figure out, there's no cell phone reception except for this 1 foot square foot area. So they have to keep going back to this spot just to call out throughout the episode. And this is where he gets the email from me at underthenail.com that says that who
Mhm.
killed Paula Merrill. We got that. then next we get, as I flip the page.
So, Zan, you're talking about Lenny Von Dohlen?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, hello. Are we sisters? Because I had such
I'm getting
crush
that
on him.
vibe, actually.
I had such a huge crush on him after I watched Electric Dreams. He was like
Oh dear God, I completely forgot about that.
the hottiest of hotties back
I
in my
forgot
day.
all about that because that for you fans of Bud Cort's other movie.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Or-
technically, Bud Cort is God in the Kevin Smith universe, and but yeah, Bud Cort was not in a lot of things, but the things he was in have a major cult following. And for me, with Lenny Von Dohlen, it was more the character of Harold. That I say this sometimes too about Harrison Ford. I don't have a crush on Harrison Ford. I have a crush on Han Solo.
Right.
Yeah, and for
Which
me,
makes sense. Which makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad somebody
It
gets
does actually.
I actually get that. I actually get that.
Yeah.
Yes, in Twin Peaks, the character of Harold Smith is Laura knows him because Laura started a Meals on Wheels program for elderly people, but he's not elderly. He is agoraphobic. He's a botanist, and has a greenhouse and does all of his work in his home, but he's agoraphobic and can't leave the house, which is how he met Laura. And he is just a sweet, frightened, good-hearted person. It's just absolutely impossible not to adore him.
But he's also a little mentally unhinged.
He's a little crazy, but then
because
again,
he takes the garden rake to his face.
he does take the garden rake to his face, but Donna pushed him. Donna did not respect his
Donna
boundaries,
pushed him.
and Donna pushed him
Well,
to the
and
limit.
again,
So we're all going to throw this on. We're going to throw this on Donna. Too.
I think it's a similar character probably though, because he's very introverted in Electric
Mhm.
Dreams as well.
Yeah, that's a very similar character.
Yeah, and that was I fell in love with that character. I mean, when I saw him in this, again, of course I know I'm such a character actor person.
Oh, me too.
I see him every time, I'm like, oh, that's Lenny Von Dohlen. So it's that sort of thing, and it's always back to Electric Dreams for me. So I just have had a crush on him forever. So
Oh, he's wonderful. He's
Yeah.
absolutely wonderful.
all right, anyway, sorry, Charles.
No, you're good. I think it's great that you guys are bonding over Lenny Von Dohlen. That's pretty funny.
I think we need to hashtag Lenny Von Dohlen for this episode. Like, maybe he'll hear it.
He's still really cute.
I just
I
want him to know how revered he is in the geek world. That'd be a good thing.
That's
Yes.
things I learned today, that Lenny Van Dohlen actually has like a devoted fan base.
Yeah,
Of
Apparently,
two at least.
Of two at least.
at least two. Yeah, and I'm not gonna. Sit
I'm
here
sure
and
he
say-
has more, but
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, yeah, I'm sure he does. But I
I'm
mean,
sure
I
he
don't.
does. But yeah,
Yeah, it's-
but at least two here, two people that I know are part of that fan base.
Oh yeah.
All right.
he's got
So-
a far reach.
So we already covered the credits. So let's next thing we get is Sheriff Jackson rules the death and accident. Guesses that the time of death was the night before last.
Wonder how he knows that.
Yeah, Doc Gooden.
Oh, am I getting ahead
Oh.
of myself?
Yes, a little bit. Doc Gooden says, "I'll do the full autopsy." Wink, wink,
Of
nudge,
course he
nudge.
will.
Say no more.
And she doesn't find anything suspicious.
Nope. Yeah. Thinks they'll find Paula went swimming after curfew, and like she always did, and was pulled under by the current and hit her head.
Because we all know she's been running off a lot lately, and
Right.
apparently she's a bit of a troubled teen.
Yes, that was one thing that I thought was funny, because it was coming from Sheryl Lee, where she talks about she was being this troubled girl that always had this like penchant for danger or something like that.
Remind
just
us of
like-
anybody we know, Charles.
Yes, just maybe Laura Palmer.
Do
maybe,
we know any girls like that who live in
maybe.
small towns?
Maybe.
Yep.
It's possible. So Sean, of course, thinks it's murder,
Of course.
and
He knows it's
But-
murder because of all the clues that he sees there.
right. He's basically figured this out, but at least as far as that, the things aren't adding up. Bob tells them that Paula was from Santa Barbara. And
Which is where Sean is from,
right.
conveniently.
Yep, conveniently. Deputy Frost comes by in a dual Spires rickshaw.
Everybody rides bikes in this town.
Right.
And Sean does make another reference at the end of this episode that is completely on point with what this town is. It's very old wholesome ways, or at least they think they are.
Right.
And so yeah, it's mostly bicycles. So that's why there's no main road into town,
But
because they're
of
very
course,
isolated.
like a certain other small town we know, it has a very dark underbelly.
In a town like Dual Spires, no one is innocent.
Nice. Very nice. Let's see what else. And Deputy Frost touches the ground and says, "The earth is soft and moist."
Oh, so great. I wrote that for my girlfriend.
And then while this is going on, Sean gets another email which has just some letters and numbers, F796.352.
What does that mean?
Looks vaguely, I don't know, librarian-ish, maybe?
I don't know. Who's that Dewey Decimal guy?
Yeah, that Dewey Decimal guy.
And see, this is where Gus comes in again to being like the smart one of the pair that knows all the book smart stuff. He knows exactly what part of the library that belongs to. As when they pin that down to being a Dewey Decimal Code, he's like, "Oh, that's in sports." I mean, he knows exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And he has the same kind of minutia knowledge, but it's just kind of adorable. Like how they determined at the beginning of the episode, "Oh, wait, you know every small town newspaper in California?" Actually,
Right.
I do, Sean. And he keeps rattling off little town names, and he gives him the name of the newspaper. And then he says, "What is it? Was it Seansville? Doesn't exist. Not
Something
yet.
like
I just 50,000 more signatures."
Right.
Hilarious.
So good.
That was good. So at the Santa Barbara Police Department, Sean's father, Henry, again, Corbin Birdson, and Detective Juliet O'Hara ogle a spread of stacked donuts.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
Just like in Zan's house during the Twin Peaks premiere.
Just like in my house.
Yes, you did. She did a premiere party and did the whole donut spread.
Nice.
So
did.
it was pretty epic.
They were pretty
I took
delicious.
pictures. Yeah, it was pretty good. Let's see. Sean asked Juliet to look up Paula.
I did that for the premiere and the finale party.
Yeah, unfortunately,
I know
couldn't
you
make
missed you missed the finale.
'cause
I still was ready for you.
I would have gone, but it was kind of over.
No, but you were in Scotland,
Overseas,
and I was
yes,
ready.
exactly.
I was ready with the computer. If you were going to Skype me and say, "I can't stand it," point me towards the television. I have to watch the finale.
Full disclosure, I would have, but ...
But it was like 2 a.m, and
Exactly.
Lori was asleep, and yeah.
And Lori, no, that was not going to happen. Unfortunately, that was
because as we all know now, you would have been yelling at the end of that episode. So
yes.
even if you had worn like a headset and gone off into like the corner of the hotel room, you would have been like, "What?"
Yes, exactly.
Woken up
Yes.
the entire hotel.
That's where they left it. Ah, Lynch shakes fist. All right. Let's see. Sean and Gus return to town. Stop by Doc Gooden's office.
This is one of my favorite.
Yeah, this is a great visual gag because the sign out front has everything, every possible medical service that she could provide, except for apparently massage, as we find out.
Massage. Yes, exactly. And it's so Doc Hayward too, because he's the family
like
doctor.
The only
he's the
doctor
coroner.
in town.
He's like every doctor in Twin Peaks is this guy. Like I don't know if Twin Peaks has a dentist, but I'm sure Doc Hayward would give it a shot.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, well, yeah, why not? Whatever. I'll give it a try. So obviously that's a nod to Doc Hayward, big time. Let's see what else. Gus pretends to have a stomach ache so that Doc Gooden will see him, and she's like, "Okay, I'll see you after this patient that's already here waiting."
And who's the patient that's already there, Charles?
It looks just like Jacques Renault.
And but who's the actual patient?
Well, the patient is apparently a mynah bird.
A mynah bird.
A mynah bird. So just like Waldo, the mynah
Waldo
bird on Twin Peaks. I just thought it was funny. They had a guy who looked like Jacques, and he has a mynah bird that looks like...
That was like
just
one of my
Waldo.
favorite things ever, because, poor Waldo did not deserve the fate that he received.
Nope.
So we get a nice little nod to Waldo. You want
Exactly.
some orange? Come on, let's share.
That's so like that's actually very sad when you hear Kimmy Robertson read that dialogue.
Oh, I know, because you know that it's just not going to end well. Oh, speaking of Kimmy Robertson,
Yeah.
We have learned
Yes.
that. Oh no, we're not there yet. I'm sorry. I thought we were.
No,
doing that.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I know there's a
Looking up
Lucy.
the episode. I know.
There's a Lucy.
Yeah, Lucy here. So
There's a Lucy reference in here. So Gus feigns some pain to go first. Now, while he's back in there, he goes back to be examined. Doc Gooden's prepping for a rectal exam.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, if I was Gus, I'd be like, okay, see you later. Bye.
Well, he does feign chronic farting to be able to get out of it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He does go behind the.
Yeah.
He goes like behind the changing screen or whatever. And
Well, and it's an obvious way of saying that she knows that they're just snooping, that they're not actually there because he's sick.
right.
So she's trying to make it as unpleasant as possible. You know,
She
she's
knows
very
that
Dr. House.
She knows that
She
he
knows
knows
that
that
he
he
knows
knows
that
that
he's
she
not
knows
telling
that.
the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
Pretty much.
and they just don't have any clue.
And Sean, of course, notices the evidence tray and some pictures and.
What is he? And he notices. Yes, he notices an earring in the evidence tray, which he also realizes the mate to that earring was being worn by Randy Jackson,
Right.
which is a nod to Laura's heart necklace.
Right. And he also notices this photo that we see really quickly of Doc Gooden, and she has a dog.
3 dogs.
Like 3 dogs. Like most people have pictures of their kids, and as we find
Ooh.
out, yeah,
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what I was saying was my favorite leap that he makes on that.
Right. Well, because it was such a fleeting glimpse, you couldn't get a good look at it.
He's very much, again, this is very Dale Cooper. He is very observant,
Right.
but Sean also knows people very well, and how they are and how they, how they compensate for
Right.
things. So I thought this one was very good. So
Yeah. And this is where Doc
foreshadowing.
Gooden says that Paula was a troubled young girl with a dangerous side.
Mm.
Nothing scared her, not even dying.
She would know.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, oh, I think I've had some experience in that area. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Sean and Gus.
Poster girl for this. Thank you.
Yeah. No, literally, I was a poster girl because they put up my poster everywhere.
My
Yes.
homecoming photo.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Invented it.
everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all over this town. As Sean and Gus leave, this is where they encounter the woman with wood, and we talked about that.
Yeah.
So we talked about that. And the next thing that plays, and I like this, Chris Isaac's "Baby Did a Bad Thing"
Loved hearing that song. Chris Isaac, of course, being Agent Chet Desmond.
in Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me.
Fire Walk with Me.
So
Yeah.
that's why that was done.
Yes. Didn't we also see a white horse coming into this vet office as well before?
I don't know. I didn't.
Yeah,
I know there was a white horse in the credits. I didn't catch it coming into the office.
There was a. I believe there was one here, but I could be. I thought there was walking in, but yeah, there's a white horse in slow motion, which I always say is supposed to be Troy.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is Troy too.
Mm-hmm.
So what else? Randy takes off on his bike, and Sean and Gus pursue. So we get a big bike chase scene. And Randy arrives at a house that turns out to be Sheriff Jackson's house. And the sheriff tells them that the festival is canceled, and this is where they offer their services as grief counselors.
Yes, and he says, "Well, feel free to go upstairs. His bedroom's upstairs, first door on the right."
Yeah, go ahead and start snooping, guys.
Uh-huh.
So they go inside.
They know he's up there. So he knows he's up there.
So they go inside the house. Sean notices some medications on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of like Sarah Palmer.
A little bit.
Like after she's freaked out over her daughter being killed.
Well, this turns out to be a little more practical, unfortunately.
And you notice how much the living room looked like the Palmer's living room.
The entire house looked exactly like the Palmer's house, including the ceiling fan.
Yeah, there's just happens to
They
be
were walking up the stairs.
we get a shot of a slow-moving ceiling fan just as they're going up the stairs.
And who else's bedroom was the first door on the right at the top of the stairs?
Well, gee, it wouldn't be Laura Palmer's, would it?
Laura, honey, I'm not going to tell you again.
And by the way, the horse was in that scene.
Oh,
I thought it was. I thought there was a horse, like someone was bringing their horse to the doctor's office because she is
Karen,
Walking.
Karen is the research goddess.
Walking away. But yeah, right there in that scene. They're looking at the woman with wood, and then they look back, and then they look back, and there's a guy leading the horse away from the doctor.
a white horse in slow motion.
That's right.
That it just appears for no reason.
Yep.
Right. That was good.
Once again, yeah.
Sean and Gus ask Randy how long he's been seeing Paula, and he says, well, my alibi is that I was studying at the library, okay?
And again, we're very. This is again a very Dale Cooper thing. How long have you been in love? How long have you been in love with Laura? How long have you been in love with Josie? What's going on between you and Andy, Lucy? Things like. I mean, he can pick up on relationships very, very easily.
Exactly. Randy starts lying down on the couch, clutching Paula's ring and crying. And I was wondering if I was intentionally trying to be like Bobby Briggs in that scene. I'm trying to remember. Or it just seemed like I'm trying to remember. Oh, that's just the thing.
I think they do a good job with.
I don't think it was like clutching her ring, but I mean, I know he was crying. So.
Well, he was. I think that they do a good job in making the Randy character a good amalgam of Bobby Briggs and James Hurley, because James is the one who kind of couldn't hold it together. But remember, Bobby, when Laura first died, was, and she loved me. I mean, he's like mad. He's like mad, and he starts crying when he starts finally saying, "Yeah, she made me deal drugs," and he finally
breaks down. Yeah.
Right, he finally does break down, but then again, where we see Bobby cry the most over Laura Palmer is in The Return, when he comes in the conference room.
Man, brings back some memories.
Remind me to at the end of this, Charles, to mention the topical reference that we've been making from the Return.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to forget that. So.
All right, I'll try and remember that. No promises, though, because it's me. Sean and Gus go to the town library, and we get another shot of a slow-moving ceiling fan. Maudette Hornsby is there reading, and she's sipping on a can, and this is one of my favorite references in this episode, a can of cherry Coke.
Isn't cherry just the best?
Yes, exactly.
That's what anything.
Yep. Which is obviously a nod to Audrey Horne and her infamous cherry stem scene, where she ties a knot in a cherry stem as a way to prove her worth at the kind of whorehouse One-Eyed Jack's.
Brothel, right?
Brothel, I guess, is more classy way of saying it, but yes, brothel.
Well, casino, we're a place where a gentleman can find a lady companion for anything.
Right.
Yes.
Sean and Gus discover that the number, of course, is the Dewey Decimal System classification number of a certain book that turns out to be Put Your Way to a Better Life by Earl Wyndham.
Earl Wyndham, which I just love.
Which is obviously a nod to Wyndham Earl.
Yeah.
And but turns out there's another book underneath the dust jacket. So they remove the dust jacket.
This is the weirdest book on golf I've ever seen.
Pretty much. So they find out that the actual book is called Reincarnation and Rebirth by Dr. Ann Power. And I'm not sure what that was a reference to.
I don't know if Ann Power was anything specific to Twin Peaks. It could be something that I'm not picking up. But
yeah, maybe it's just someone they know. Yeah, I didn't catch that reference. Sean and Gus end up returning to the lake to call Juliet. She says that Paula Merrill had supposedly drowned in Santa Barbara 7 years earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where things get a little heated. Right? Right?
The plot thickens.
Or is that thins? We'll find out.
Oh.
Ugh.
Was the library where Gus asked to poke around? I can't remember. At one point, Gus says, "Hey, we should poke around," and then he says, "Peek," and Sean goes, "Peek."
Yes, where they do their Twin Peaks.
Oh,
I believe that was the library. Yeah, that was
Okay.
the library where they both say the word peak. So there's two peaks.
Well
Right.
spotted.
Yeah.
Well spotted. I didn't catch that one.
That was a very
Very subtle.
very subtle one, but they got
Very
it in.
subtle, but still, yeah.
Yeah, well spotted. So they go back to the Sawmill Diner, and there's an old man dressed like Pete Martell giving a thumbs up.
Oh, I love that.
So a reference to Pete Martell and also the old waiter that when
Mhm.
Cooper was shot is kind of like ambling around. Yeah, exactly. Giving this thumbs up while Cooper just wants him to call somebody for help so that, get an ambulance or something.
Good work,
And
Andy.
he does an okay sign.
Yes, very Cooper.
Yeah, yep. Juliet and Carlton Lassiter, who pretty much resembles Dale Cooper in this episode.
He's pretty much Dale Cooper with.
He's got this slick backed hair with the gel, and he's got a dark suit on, and so he's
his character is Dale Cooper with no sense of humor, who does not know how to love, unfortunately. Because in the course of the series, he winds up getting divorced from Justine Bateman. Actually,
Correct.
was who played his wife, Mallory Keaton from
Family Ties. Yeah. Interesting.
Although he is nowhere near as observant as Dale Cooper.
And that's part of his problem, is that this no good Nick Sean Spencer comes in thinking he's a detective, and Sean is like 10 times better detective than Lassiter is.
He's more
And
talented. Yeah.
Lassiter knows it,
Lassie
and it just
is
makes him crazier.
always trying to prove that Sean is not a psychic. I mean, he's like, Sean, you're
Right.
not a psychic. I mean, he's not out to get him or anything. He's just like, can we just stop hiring them altogether? I don't understand what the fascination is with these two. He's just always
He's trying
like
to tell
that.
the captain that he's full of it, but he's always right, and he always solves the case.
Right. And so when
So-
it comes out that Sean wins, he's always like, "Oh, Lassie, I knew you believed in us all along." I mean, it's that sort of
Got
kind of
it.
tongue in cheek sort of thing at the end.
And to give you the what kind of passion Lassiter has, he's a Civil War enactor
Oh my God.
who ages his bronze buttons in his own urine. So he's that
Alright.
type of guy.
Alrighty then.
Another
Yeah,
amazing
okay.
episode.
That one was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. Love that episode.
Let's see. So they say that Paula's body was never found, and her clothes were next to a pile of sunflower seeds. And I'm guessing this is probably a
Ooh.
reference to a pile of dirt on
Yes.
Twin Peaks.
I'm thinking that too.
Yeah, a mound of dirt. And let's see what else we have.
They eat sunflower seeds a lot on the show, though.
Because
Gus
they'll-
loves sunflower seeds.
all right. I was kind of wondering because I was like, well, sunflower seeds doesn't have anything to do with Twin Peaks.
Yeah, it's not a Twin Peaks.
It does for
reference,
X-Files, but not Twin Peaks.
but- True.
Because Mulder loves
They go
sunflower
through
seeds.
Yeah.
Right.
they go through phases with food.
Got
Sometimes it's like these triple cooked cheese bombs or whatever, and then sometimes it's sunflower seeds, and sometimes it's this burrito cart that they go to, and sometimes
They-
One of my
They
one
just
of my
obsess
favorite,
over certain foods at certain
Yes.
times. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, one of my favorite food moments on Psych is Sean calls up Gus. He's like, "Dude, let's go down to the KFC. They're giving away double downs. Just giving them away."
That's funny.
I know,
This is
and of course,
Back when
Gus
Double
is-
Down was released, and everybody was like, "What in God's name is this food abomination?"
right. But he
Double
is
Down, of course, a chicken sandwich where the bun was the chicken, and it was filled with cheese and ham.
yes, it's too much, and that is definitely something up Sean's alley. He's into the overly fried, super greasy.
Right.
He's into
You know-
that food porn, fair food kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. And Gus is more into the
I
healthy
can respect
food.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Gus is more into the healthy food. However, when it comes to like them going to eat something like really greasy or whatever, and Sean recommends it, Gus usually responds with, that's right.
Oh,
Which
that's right.
means they're going to eat it.
Yes, he's also a big fan of like Jamaican jerk chicken.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yes.
So yeah, they have their food moments.
Yeah.
That's
and the
good.
hotness level and all that. Yes. And Gus
So,
is Gus
go
is
ahead.
he's the nose. He can smell everything. He knows exactly what's in every recipe just by smelling it.
Yes, he has the Hannibal Lecter sense of smell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So, Sean remembers Bob eating these sunflower seeds.
So he goes back to talk to Bob.
Right. So and they go looking for Bob, but apparently a waitress named Flo, which I have to think was a nice nod to Alice.
Kiss my grits.
Kiss my grits. Yep.
Yep.
Early to bed, early to rise.
It frightens me that you know that song.
Sweet.
I know the whole song.
Oh, the song is great.
I'm sure you
I
do.
still want to know how they made it a sitcom out of such a depressing movie, but
I know, right? Alice doesn't live there anymore. Is like
Well,
It's
it's like this diner, so it makes perfect. That's a good setup for a sitcom.
sure.
Wacky
Yeah,
people
okay.
come in all the time, So
if you're not a barely scraping it together single mom who just got
yeah.
dumped on her ass. Yeah.
Right,
So
right.
anyway, so he goes to see Bob.
Yeah.
Flo
And they
tells
go,
him,
they go to the Barker's house. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's like a picture of Paula as a homecoming queen
adorable.
on the mantle, and a moose head is on the coffee table.
Mhm.
Alongside
Yep.
a pineapple.
That's where a pineapple is.
See, I wouldn't get
Yep.
the pineapple reference. But you're probably right because
Yep.
I'm sure you're right actually because
That's where the pineapple was, and that's where you needed to text in and say, "Hey, it's on the
That's right.
coffee
Yep,
table."
got it.
That's right.
No, that's right.
You guys, you're too funny. And that's obviously references to Twin Peaks, and obviously Laura Palmer. Bob says that 12 years ago, Michelle's unstable sister Lucy. See, I told you there was going to be a Lucy reference.
Lucy, yes. Like
So,
one of the most stable people in Twin Peaks is of course, Lucy Moran Brennan.
right.
A nice little nod to her.
Yep. Apparently, Lucy left Dual Spires, taking with her Paula, whom Michelle and Bob had all but raised. When Paula sent them on a letter detailing the drug use and child abuse,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously sounds very Laura Palmer-ish,
Mm-hmm.
they helped Paula fake her death so she could leave, and so she could leave Lucy, as it turns out.
Right.
Juliet and Carlton reopen the case, and then at this point they leave to issue a warrant for Bob's arrest for faking someone's death.
Because that's illegal. If this were my jurisdiction, I'd arrest you right now.
Yeah.
So, so Sean keeps looking around the house and sees some photos of Paula when she's a baby, and realizes that the hand in the photo giving her a bottle and Bob's hand are the same thing. And he says,
Right.
"Did she know you were her father?" And he said, "Not at first. I told her so she would come with me." And he says, "Does your wife know?" And he says, "No, and she's not gonna. She's been through enough." And so I think what I thought was interesting about this was the idea of one person being with both siblings is a nod to Lana having been married to Dougie Milford until his death, and then after he dies, she gets with Dwayne Milford. So I thought that was a nice little, moving from sibling to sibling.
I can see that connection. Yep.
And just because it was Robin Lively
Yeah. Makes
being
sense.
being part of that, yes.
Yeah, that does make sense. So Sean and Gus go check out Paula's room, and they find a secret diary. So just like Laura Palmer's secret diary, only
Mhm.
this one is hidden in a stuffed bear with a noose around its neck.
I know, like, where's this secret thing we have to find? And it's like, I
Yeah.
think it's a really creepy ass bear.
Yeah,
Should probably check that out.
yeah. And then it turns out the last entry is in Latin.
Which is why they have to call
Father
Ray
Wesley.
Wise
Yeah,
the father.
Is this
Yep.
Chinese?
Yeah, I love that it's Chinese and it's obviously the Roman alphabet.
Right. That's pretty funny. So Father Wesley translates. He says Randy's referred to as R, and there's like an entry in Paula's diary about meetings with Jay.
Nervous about meeting Jay tonight. That's the letter J, Diane.
Right. So that's obviously another Twin Peaks reference from Laura Palmer's
Right.
diary. At this point, I guess Sean just like up and hangs up on Father Wesley.
He takes
Mhm.
one step to the left.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He takes one step to the end.
But he
because
doesn't
Father
call him.
Wesley-
He doesn't call him back.
No.
Right. Father Wesley's trying to get him to come to church. He's like, "Where are you going? Are you coming to church? Oh, can't hear you."
Yep.
And then
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
so he's trying
That's
to
right.
avoid that awkwardness. And of course, the letter J turns out to be Jack Smith.
Right. And Juliet comes back to help. Sean wants to follow up on a vision he just had.
Mhm.
So just like Cooper, Sean's having visions.
Well, no, Sean
Sean-
always
Sean-
has.
Sean always has visions. Okay. So
Yeah,
that
Sean's
makes- all right.
Sean's pretending. Sean pretends to have visions to keep up his
The appearance.
his psychic
Yeah,
appearance. So
yeah.
what'll happen is you'll see one of those negative close-ups, and then Sean will be like, "Oh, I've just had a vision," and then
Okay.
that's how he's able to act on it.
I always think it was a Dale Cooper reference, but maybe it works on both levels.
Yeah, no, it's
He's heard it
definitely
both ways.
He's heard it both ways. It's definitely a running thing with Sean. Sean's father and Gus are in on this with him, but everybody else thinks he's a psychic.
Right.
Right.
Exactly right. And a layer to this part right here is that Sean and Juliet have just started dating, like right at the beginning of this season, and Gus still doesn't know. So that's
Labradoodle.
right.
So they're
That's
kind of
why-
keeping it from him. Yeah, because I remember them they snuck a kiss.
Yes,
when-
they did.
Right when he's like, like, what in the world can that be? Kind
Right.
of
He
thing.
says there's a
Yeah.
Labradoodle over there. That's
Yeah, and there's no Labradoodle.
there was no.
Let's see.
What are you
I
talking
didn't see a
about, Sean?
Labradoodle.
There's no Labradoodle over there.
There's no Labradoodle. He's
I
very
swear I
angry
saw
with
it.
that's why. So when he turns around, he and Juliet are able to kiss for a second.
Right.
So
Right. Let's see what else. Back at the library, Maudette walks in wearing high-heeled shoes. Say, hey, check out my shoes.
check out my
Obviously-
shoes. They're much better than my saddle shoes, aren't they?
I was hoping she would have came in wearing saddle shoes. That would
That
have
would've been-
But
that
I
would've
guess
been pretty
that's
funny,
too
but-
obvious, right?
Yes, but she's definitely the vixen again in this episode, the way she was in Twin Peaks,
Right. So that
or
was
the
obviously
wannabe
a
vixen.
nod to Audrey's shoes that
Yes.
featured so heavily in the pilot. Sean and Gus want to be. Sean says Gus wants to be Maudette's date at Betty Boop night at the Roadhouse.
Betty Boop Night at the Roadhouse, which is
Roadhouse.
Betty Boop Night being Roadhouse,
Roadhouse.
being sort of a nod to her sort of innocent flirtation,
Right.
the way the way Betty Boop with her little baby voice and her cute little doe eyes and being
Right.
like total
And her-
sex pot looking,
And her beauty mark.
and her beauty mark, and then Roadhouse, of course, being
The Roadhouse. Yes.
the Bang Bang Bar in Twin Peaks, the Roadhouse.
Exactly.
There's a lot of great
where you
little
go-
throwaway lines in this scene.
Yes.
What were we gonna say, Charles?
No, I was just gonna say that's where the Nine Inch Nails play.
The Nine Inch Nails, yes, and
I'm not kidding. They
and,
did.
and my favorite band, ZZ Top.
ZZ Top.
Yes, and there's a lot of cute throwaway lines in this one. In this area where they are talking
Yeah.
talking about
Well,
this is when we
Maudette-
find out that Maudette is very close to Randy. That
Right.
Close.
we're not quite sure what that means just yet.
Yeah. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Maudette says she likes to dance all night long.
She does.
So we know that Audrey likes to dance.
Audrey's dance. Yeah.
Audrey's dance, which is obviously featured in both the original and the new series. Or
And the return. Yeah.
Return, yep.
Because here's to Billy. Here's to Billy.
Right. So Maudette hands over a copy of the latest high school yearbook. Maudette says, mentions that her graduating class only had 3 people, Bob, Michelle, and her,
Mm-hmm.
in it. because obviously those three were attending high school in Twin Peaks.
Well, the two of them were. I don't know where the hell Lana came from.
Yeah, I just have to assume that she was younger, maybe they were seniors and she was a sophomore or something.
Or she was part. She was part of the southern part of Twin Peaks. Apparently,
That's right.
no. She was. Wasn't she brought to Twin Peaks by Dougie? Didn't he bring her home from somewhere?
You're probably right. I think she did. I think he did. Yes.
Yeah,
I think
he
you're right.
on some of his clandestine, super secret, super confidential
his escapades.
travels.
Yes.
His government escapades.
Right. So Sean notices the initials JS in the photo and traces that to partially blind photographer Jack Smith.
Which is just so funny that he's a blind photographer.
One-eyed Jack,
partially
right?
blind. Yeah, one-eyed Jack. Exactly.
He's one-eyed Jack. Yep, because
Exactly.
he's not fully blind. It's just one of his eyes. So he's a
right.
He is a one-eyed Jack.
And
He's
he
a one-eyed
fully
Jack.
goes to wearing the eye patch in the last
At the
scene,
end,
which
yeah,
I love.
which
Oh,
is
yes.
a nod to Nadine too.
Nod to
Right.
Nadine Hurley. Yep.
Yep. So at Jack's, photos of Paula are everywhere. Apparently they were an item until Paula left him for Randy.
Mm-hmm.
And he was at first angry about it, but then he became her confidant, like we talked about, just like Harold Smith.
He's very
How'd
much
you like
Harold.
that?
Yes.
How'd you like that? Sean sussing out when he lost his sight by how blurry the photos are.
Yeah.
Duh.
Right.
He's like, let me guess,
That was-
2003.
Let me guess when this happened. That was pretty good. And the house is full of photographs the way that Harold's house is full of plants.
Right.
So he is very much a Harold type of character.
Yep. And Jack says he was with Paula the night she disappeared, kind of like James Hurley.
Oh, like James Hurley, yeah.
Yep. And they took a walk in the forest.
Kind of like Laura.
The evil in these woods.
The evil
She wanted to leave Dual Spires, but while they're talking, someone knocks Jack out. Dun dun dun. And they end up developing the photo with, of course, Sean and Gus's help. And they reveal that Randy attacked Jack.
Yes. And Randy is
Yes.
the reason he gives for going to the library all the time is he's taking correspondence courses in management because he has to learn how to be a good leader.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And that'll come up later.
it does. The leader part is very important.
Yeah.
Juliet ends up going to Randy's house looking for the sheriff. Randy's out back sawing wood in the backyard.
In this beautiful Twin Peaks Eraserhead moment,
Right.
where in slow motion he has a table saw and
Right.
he's sawing a 2x4, and then all the sawdust comes up into the air in slow motion, very Eraserhead.
2x4s, 4
Two by-
bites.
Here's the thing:
2x4s. Yeah.
2x4s aren't actually 2x4. I'm trying
They're
to
not.
when you go to your bank.
Yep.
I understand now.
That was a scene in Twin Peaks, obviously.
Pete, I
was
don't know
it?
how this could have happened. Yeah, somebody. There's a the guy who runs the bank,
Dale Mibler, this really old banker guy, comes by.
and he looks like Harry Carey. I mean, he's got the
Yes.
big glasses, gray hair.
The big
And he's
chunky Coke bottle yeah.
He's upset that his 2x4s aren't actually 2x4, and he's complaining to Josie, who just inherited the sawmill, doesn't work there, and she's very upset. She's like, Pete, how could this happen? And Pete has to explain that 2x4s
are
really
not 2x4. Right.
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 That is correct.
So,
They're like 1 in 6 somethings, and
Pete
they're
completely explains it perfectly, and I forget what the numbers are. But
yeah.
if I
It's so
ever
it
to
can
know,
fit
I need to find
in.
out.
It's so they can fit in a 2x4 space.
Right. But they're not exactly 2x4. Otherwise, they wouldn't be.
Correct.
Otherwise, you'd just be banging it against the hole.
Exactly.
Phrasing.
see, you learn about carpentry here on Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast. How great
Pete
is that?
Martell can teach you how to build a house and how to win at chess. He can do anything.
Every
Exactly.
single person in my family has worked in the construction industry, so this is
Oh wow.
that is my forte.
That's in your wheelhouse
That is literally my wheelhouse.
that you made. The wheelhouse. You made.
I built it
You
out of
made the
scratch.
wheel. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
So how menacing is this that he's like pounding this 2x4 on his hand while he's talking to Juliet?
Yeah,
Extremely menacing.
Yeah, and I think that was the point because he's talking about how Juliet reminds him of Paula.
What do you
Yeah.
weigh? 109, 110?
Right.
Yeah.
All creepy.
Ugh.
Yeah, and I definitely get kind of like a Leo Johnson vibe from him at this point.
Right. Right.
At least I did. Sean and Gus arrive, and then Randy mentions his ex-girlfriend, and this is I love this line from Sean. What is it with all these secret relationships in this town?
Yeah.
Which is obviously just a nod to Twin Peaks right there, because
And it's a nod to him having a secret relationship with Juliet.
Right.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
So
I get
that's why he's saying that, because he's trying to keep his relationship with Juliet a secret.
Right.
like you guys in your secret relationships while trying to like deflect
While trying
Exactly
from his
right.
own
That's exactly
his
the
own
deflection.
secret relationship. Yeah,
Yep, it's total deflection.
I got it. Randy says he waited for Paul at the library, but she never showed. Dun, dun, dun. So we go back to the Sawmill Diner, and Sean realizes that Randy's ex-girlfriend is Maudette.
Dun,
Maudette.
dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Going for the
And
older
so-
woman.
But-
Wow.
And they
So
make an interesting.
she's cougering.
What did you say?
Maudette was cougering him.
Oh, big
Well,
time.
and what's interesting about that is who.
Thank you.
Oh, good one. Good one. Who in Twin Peaks likes an older man?
Let's see, Lana.
Audrey Horne.
This is true. That is two.
Inappropriately, I am an agent of the FBI. What I want and what I need are two very different things. You are an 18-year-old girl. So I think that's kind of funny. And they Gus makes a comment about her getting her Pamela Smart on with Randy, which I thought was an interesting reference because, of course, Pamela Smart, who is famous for being in jail for having her high school lover kill her husband.
Correct. Yeah.
And also, interestingly enough, in 2002, I think, because that's another thing where they're a little bit ooged out by this, because she's obviously known Randy for a long time and was sort of like a mother figure to him. And in early 2000s, when SVU first started, there was an episode of SVU where a woman was being brought up on statutory rape charges because she was pregnant by her stepson. And the star of that episode, Sherilyn Fenn.
Whoa.
Of course.
Yeah. So.
Of course.
That's me doing my Keanu Reeves. Whoa.
Layer upon layer upon layer.
Layer upon layer upon layer of just inappropriate behavior.
Yeah,
So.
and I also love the comment when they reference it, and Gus is saying it's not the same thing because that boy is 17 and she is fine.
Yeah.
and
Fine.
and Sean says something like, "So where's that differentiation between altar boy and pervert?"
Exactly. Well, they have some. There's some great little throwaway lines in this episode.
Yeah, I love
one of course being, "We're here to investigate, catch bad guys, and eat pie. We started with the pie," which is also exactly what happens in Twin Peaks.
Right.
He starts with pie before he even gets to the investigating.
He goes right to the
That's his
diner.
fuel. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
fuels the
And
investigative process.
At the
Is that the
lamp
part-
light inn.
Is that the part where they go and they sit down with Jules and they're eating the cinnamon pie, and they say, "Isn't this pie good?" And she's like, "I don't know."
You ate
Ate it.
Pie.
Did,
You immediately ate it.
Yeah.
doesn't she? Isn't there
And then
reference
they
where?
realize they have a clue and they have to act on it, like 4 slices of pie to go.
Doesn't she make a comment to Gus like, "You ate 12 pieces" or something like
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, they cannot stay away from the pie. So,
that? Was pretty
but yes, so he and Maudette are kind of spending inappropriate time at the library.
right. So, of course, Sean realizes that Randy's ex-girlfriend's Maudette.
That's when they realize they have to go to
Yeah.
the library.
So Sean thinks that Maudette got jealous and killed Paula. And so they all go to the library, but they go to the library and find
Maudette's
Hold
dead.
on.
Maudette's dead.
Okay. Maudette's dead.
Yep.
She's been
She's
hanged.
dead. Yep.
Yeah,
She
she's
did,
been hanged.
Fred.
And
And
hung by a noose. So yes, she went all hang 'em high like Clint Eastwood. And Sheriff Jackson and Doc Gooden show up for the body, come for the body,
Of course.
of course, and they
They didn't know
rule that
anything about it.
right, no, not at all. They rule that Maudette killed Paula out of jealousy and then committed suicide because the scandal was more than she could bear.
Uh-huh.
because this is a small town.
And this is where you do that.
Yeah, I don't trust these people for a second.
Nope,
So they're
nope.
so they're at the library and they see this blue cord up towards the ceiling. They're looking around, and of course they're looking up, and
Yeah,
they realize that is an Ethernet cord, and
right,
that's
this-
how we determined that Maudette is who has been sending the emails.
yeah, because they follow her back to her office, and they find a laptop there
Mm-hmm.
in her office. Sean obviously connects the dots and is like, well, she's the one who has been emailing.
Right.
And
There's,
then-
you've got Dewey Decimal and
Right.
Ethernet cord in the library. Ding, 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 ding.
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, exactly. But all of a sudden, they get locked in Maudette's office, and then there's smoke coming from underneath the door.
Yep.
So we've locked somebody somewhere because we don't want them to know what we're doing, and then we've set a fire.
Right.
Where have we seen that before?
Let's see if
Catherine
fire.
Martell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
Catherine
the,
Martell and Leo Johnson. Two people are about to get burned to the sawmill for 2 reasons.
The sawmill fire. Yes, yes.
The hell is going on in Twin Peaks on this one night?
Yeah, it's like where was Piper Laurie during all this? That's what I want to know.
Oh, she was lighting all those candles in her house, waiting for her daughter to come home from the prom. Come on, Carrie.
That's right.
Yes,
Oh,
I
that's
see.
right.
they're all
yes.
gonna laugh at you.
That's right. I
Yes,
forgot
that
she
is
was
Piper
in that.
Laurie, isn't it?
That is
I
that
forgot
is
she was
Piper
in
Laurie.
that.
Piper Laurie is Carrie's mother.
Yes. That's it.
All right.
Well, that's where the fire comes from. Her lighting her candle.
That's why she's so good at it.
Right. So someone comes to rescue them. Turns out it's Father Wesley with an axe. So he goes,
Father
all,
Wesley with an axe.
Here's Johnny.
There's a line that Sean says that they were almost Wicker Man. That
Yeah.
I laughed so loud at that. That was so funny.
Yeah, that
That's
was
good.
great.
Yeah.
Wicker Man, of course, being the Edward Woodward Christopher Lee classic, where he's about to be sacrificed in a giant wicker man with a bunch of other chickens and rabbits and other things. So,
Right.
and they are talking with. They haven't seen the father in a while, so they are surprised at how his hair is now completely white. That's
Right.
not how he looked the last time they saw him. So they have this discussion about how he has this white hair because it was a failed attempt to cover some gray.
Which did not go well.
Did not go well. Now his hair is completely white.
Yep. Just like on Twin Peaks.
Uncle
just
Leland's
like
hair went completely white.
So Ray Wise got to reference his own character in that.
He got to
gag. So
reference his own character, which is
that was
awesome.
great. That was pretty epic. Then Bob shows up in a Jeep and everybody drives off. They go to a log cabin in the woods.
Let's go to the cabin. Yeah.
cabin in the
Leo
woods.
Johnson.
Yep. So bad things happen in cabins in the woods on Twin Peaks.
Did you
That's
mention that they had? Okay, in the show, Sean always gives Gus these horrible names as well,
Right.
and the name in this was
Blackman, wasn't it?
Lodge Blackman.
Lodge Blackman.
Lodge
yeah. So,
Blackman, yes.
so a nod
Black-
to
yeah.
the Black Lodge. Yes.
Black Lodge. My favorite Gus name for this, though, was when Sean said that Jet Blackness should be his porn name. That was the best.
Oh yeah.
That's a great porn name for you, Gus.
Jet Black. It is, yes.
Jet Blackness.
Now I'm thinking of the model episode. I'm gonna have to go watch a bunch of Psych episodes after this.
But yes, Lodge Blackman is the
Lodge
is the nod.
Blackman.
Lodge.
I'm
Yep.
glad you brought that up. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. So Bob explains that after World War I, his great-grandfather established the town with 2 other soldiers, and apparently it's been their responsibility of the leaders of these 3 families to oversee the town, to watch it.
And this
Leader.
is where Sean says, "Oh my God, this is the village."
Right.
referencing the
Right.
M. Night Shyamalama
Shyamalan
Ding Dong
movies.
movie,
Yeah.
The Village, where it's basically people
Shabalama.
who
Yeah.
have decided that the world is too awful, so they isolate themselves and live a more primitive lifestyle, and everything was fine until 50 years later when
The great
sawmill
sawmill fire in 1958.
was burned down by a drifter, an outsider, which is why they don't like outsiders in this town.
Right. So this is where they start like not trusting people. And Paula, obviously afraid for her life because she's from Santa Barbara, remember?
She's kind of an outsider. Not only is she sort of an outsider, but she wants to run away with Randy.
Right.
So take one of the
Is the
leaders.
only
Yeah.
right. He's the only next in line of the family of elders, who we find out one of them is Bob,
Right.
and the other two are Donna and Sheriff Jackson.
Yes.
So, and Sheriff Jackson,
And
the
they
pills
kind
we
of
find
connect
out-
this. They kind of connect this because all three of them have rings on their fingers.
Right, they have rings on their fingers, and Sheriff Jackson, the pills, he has cancer. He's dying of cancer.
Don't take the ring.
Don't take the ring, Laura. Don't take the ring. And this is my favorite observation of Sean's. He knows that Dr. Donna, is childless because she has 3 dogs. And she has like a family photo of her
Right.
3 dogs instead of her with kids. So that's how he knows she's childless. And I thought, when I first saw that, I was like, oh my God, that is such an astute observation. Because
Yep.
again, Sean is very observant, and he also knows people very, very well. So
And then he also
because
connects
she can't
that
have kids.
Sheriff Jackson has cancer because of his
Right.
medications.
the pills he has, he's dying of cancer.
Right.
And Bob, his only child was Paula, which people didn't know it was his child. So she couldn't have actually been revealed as his child. And she was the one that wanted to leave town. And that is why we find out that Randy is in the library taking the management courses so he can be a good leader, because he's going to have to leave the town because he's the only descendant of the elders at this point.
Right. And this is
So-
where Sean is. She's putting all
Yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
things together.
And
Yeah.
this is where we figure out that it's the village, that the elders
Yeah.
don't know what's going on, so they just
Right.
start killing the dissidents.
And how much
So-
did you love that Ray Wise was like, "Oh, that wasn't that great of a movie"? You know, they're getting into a dissertation.
Yeah, they took
There.
it telling a digression. Yeah,
Right, right.
That was pretty good. So
Well-
Doc Gooden and Sheriff Jackson start threatening everybody with a gun,
Mm-hmm.
and
then
this is when
O'Hara
Juliet and Carlton
show
show
up.
up. Yeah, and Father Wesley mentions that he called the detectives before coming to Dual Spires because obviously, and
Mhm.
Jack led them to the cabin. So
right. So here's one thing. So it's all wrapped up in a nice little package.
well, they only had an hour to do this, so
Well, what I love about this is not only is the victim from Twin Peaks the killer
right.
in Psych,
Yes.
but the killer in Twin Peaks saves the day in Psych. It's a complete 180 for both Leland and Laura Palmer.
Yep.
Right.
He's the killer and he solves it, and she's the victim and she's the killer. I think I love that.
And also that Laura and her confidant, Harold Smith, work together.
They work together, yes. And I will admit that when I first saw this episode, I'm like, oh, is it going to be Laura? Like, are we really going to go there?
Right.
I was
They
almost
went there.
expecting it. Yeah, they did. And that she and Harold worked together because, honestly, Harold was the best thing for Laura. He was the best person for her
Right.
in everything she needed. I mean, James
Just hide the guard.
James was great, but James had his own issues going on.
Yeah.
But Harold was the best thing that Laura had in her life at that time.
Lenny, right?
Yep,
Yeah, Lenny.
that's him.
So everybody goes back to the diner to celebrate.
Oh,
this is-
and
This is
this
where
kind of scene
we
is
get
just brilliant.
we get like this barrage of references in this.
All right, so I have a list.
Okay.
I have a list, and
Go
I'm
for your
sure
list.
you-
Let's see. I
I'm
have
sure
my
you
list
have
too.
a list, and we'll make sure the lists will synchronize our list.
All right, you do your list, and then if you miss anything, I'll let you know.
Excellent. Yes, you fill in my gaps for me here.
All right. Okay.
Phrasing.
Oh,
Phrasing.
oh,
Are we still
phrasing.
doing phrasing? Are we still doing that? So first things first.
Hold on, wait a minute.
Raising.
Thank you.
In stereo.
In stereo. So first things first. We're in the diner. Okay, so that's enough of a thing as it is. And the jukebox is playing "Cool Catwalk" by Julie Cruz,
Right.
off of Julie Cruz's second record, "The Voice of Love," with the mashed potato face on it.
Yep.
So Jack is there, not only in an eye patch,
Yes.
but he's in a red suit. So he is like the man from another place.
Right. The little man from another place. Yeah.
Yep. And then we have a tall man with kind of an odd, deep voice ordering pie, who looks very much like the giant or the
Right.
fireman, depending on what we're talking about.
Carol Strucken. Yep.
Yep. And then we have Lassie drinking his damn fine cup of cider, and he even
Yeah.
holds up his hand the way that Dale Cooper holds him before he first drinks his first coffee in the morning. And then later, when we're panning around the diner, we see that cider has solidified, very much like the coffee in the Black Lodge in the final episode of the original series of Twin Peaks.
Right. Because Carlton overturns it, and he's like, just like,
Mhm. And he's just
that scene.
and it's just solid. It won't go anywhere. So
Yep.
then we're panning around the diner, and we have a
Right.
young man in a football helmet banging his head on the counter.
a blue football
Very-
helmet. Yeah. Yep.
Very Johnny Horn. Very
Very
Johnny.
Horn. Yep.
And then we have a waitress who is blonde and looks very much like Norma. We obviously know that that's not who owns it, because we know that Bob owns it, but looks like Norma. And then all the patrons look like lumberjacks or possibly sawmill workers.
Right.
They all look like the same kind of guys. And then Robin Lively is doing basically the Audrey dance
Yes.
to this. She's doing Audrey's dance. And then Dana Ashbrook is bussing tables and dancing also,
Yep.
but he's dressed like Bobby. He's
Right.
wearing a Bobby outfit with, like the t-shirt over the long underwear, which is, kind of what we all wore in the 90s, but that's what Bobby looked like as well.
The kind of
And then
grungy
we
look.
hear- Yeah, that grungy look. And then we hear somebody barking. And it's Randy, and he's looking out the window barking at a dog, but he sounds like when Bobby
And Mike. They
at
were
Ja-
yelling.
yeah, Bobby and Mike are barking at James in the next cell when they're all in jail on that same night.
Right. Right.
And then you just sort of are seeing everybody in this diner just kind of dancing weird, and you see in the very background, you see Dana Ashbrook dancing with a
Yes.
photo.
yeah. He's spinning. Well, he's spinning around.
Yes,
Just like
Yes.
Leland when he was holding Laura's photo.
Sure.
Yep.
yes, exactly.
So
what else is on your list, Charles, that I missed?
I think you pretty much got everything. There was one thing though. That giant with the deep voice asked Flo for 3 cinnamon pies, please.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
that was a reference to like, I will tell you 3 things.
Yes, I forgot about that. You're right. Yes, he did hold up his hand with the 3.
But otherwise, that's pretty good. Yeah, that was pretty good. And Juliet is watching this, all freaked out.
She's like, I think we need to leave. It's not so much that Gus and the father are here. It's everybody else.
It's like these people are nuts.
Yeah, she's very weirded out by everybody else.
So she and Sean leave the diner, but apparently everybody else stays. So
Both
they're cool
of those
with it.
super tall guys, both of
Yeah.
them played Lurch in different iterations of
Ooh,
Adam's Family.
There's a good.
Oh, now that I did not know.
That's a good trivia bit.
Because I knew Carol Stricken played Lurch, but I didn't know
Yeah.
that the guy ordering pie did.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Where did the other guy play?
Um,
Lurch?
I think it
Doesn't
was
say.
like the third movie. Like,
I didn't know
Oh
there
God,
was-
I didn't even
I
know
didn't
there
know
was.
there was a third
right.
movie.
It was straight to video, I think.
Or was that a TV
Wow.
movie? Like a
It could have been a
made for-
TV
made,
movie.
Made for TV movie, maybe?
Yeah.
That could have been.
But I'm assuming that's why they got him to play that
Okay.
role.
Then
That's fun.
that's even more genius right there.
That
That's
is
brilliant.
great. So, yeah. And then we get the end credits,
The end credits are so fantastic.
which, we get the soap opera type music that's used in the Twin Peaks closing
Well,
credits.
which is Laura's theme.
And we
it's
get a
very
shot
creepy.
of Paula's homecoming picture.
And it's just Paula in the tiara through the whole thing, just like
Yep.
the ending of Twin Peaks, which is so great.
Right. So, damn,
So,
that was this was a pretty impressive episode.
The writers of this episode are either us
Yeah.
or
God help them.
or
Yep.
just as bad as us, Charles. Just as bad
Yeah.
as us. 'Cause
Nobody's
they
just as
were-
bad as us.
They
the
were
worst.
They were the such great attention to detail. I really have to shout out to Dana Ashbrook in this one, because I think he does such a good job of imitating Ray Wise in those two scenes. The one at the beginning where he first sees the body, and the very end where he's dancing with the photo, because he really is, and you almost wouldn't notice him because he's so far in the back.
He is super at the back.
You can't really tell what he's doing, but then you know that he's holding a photo. You can't see that he's holding a photo. You don't know what the photo is, but you know that's what he's holding because of how he's dancing so much like Ray.
You kind of see the frame.
You kind of see the frame, but you don't know what it's a photo of.
Right.
So you really have to, and I think you notice him because he's doing such a good Ray Wise homage. Yeah. And then that's when you realize, oh my God, he's dancing with a picture frame just like Ray Wise did.
He's like,
all in a circle. He goes around a circle. Yep.
Well, because Jack is dancing in front of him as they walk out. Mm-hmm. And so it's you kind of have to filter through Jack.
Yes, you have to really be looking at everybody in that scene.
The camera kind of the camera focuses on Jack, and then
he does a great job of doing like the little snappy dance that the Man from Another Place does as well. Yeah, whose name escapes me right now. I can't think of his name.
Michael Anderson?
Yes, Michael Anderson. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, everybody does a really, really good job in this.
Yeah, it was great. So, ratings. Let's go with our special guest.
Let's let our guest answer first.
Yeah. So, why don't you give us your rating, Karen?
It doesn't matter how much I knew about Twin Peaks. I love this episode, like 1,000%, because you know me and pop culture references. There were so many other pop culture references in this as well. I mean, when he's calling out all the movies they haven't seen or the TV they haven't watched. I mean, it came down to just like in General Hospital, and he was like, General Hospital? He's like, you're kidding me. Like, he can't
once a week the entire town gets together and watches Everwood.
And
right. He's able to rattle off the Everwood.
His next line after he says that is, I can work with that. So, I mean, it's so great. So, yeah, I have to give this like a 9.5 easily, and I'll say pineapples because, it's Psych. So, pineapples.
Because what else would you give it?
That's right.
All right, Zan, how about you? What would you give this one?
Well, I think that's the beauty of Psych, that, even if you're not... I remember my nephew watched the Clue episode, and he said, Aunt Zan, my mom says you have... Because he had not seen that movie, and he did not get it, but he still loved that episode. I said, okay, we'll watch both, and I'll show you what everything was. And he still thought it was a great episode, even though he had not seen it. And then the episode with Freddie Prinze Jr., where he plays such a rich guy that he can hire Kurt Smith to be by his pool and just play music on the guitar.
Right.
We were watching that episode. My nephew said, my parents said that he is somebody. Who is that, Aunt Zan? And I'm like, okay. He is half of the duo that is the band Tears for Fears. And that's why that's so awesome. And he's really hot. And that's why I like this episode. So,
and also Tears for Fears is a big thing in the show as well.
Yeah, Tears for Fears is a big thing in the show as well. So I am giving this episode 9 cinnamon owls.
Oh, very nice.
Because of the incredible attention to detail and the obvious love of Twin Peaks that went into the writing of this episode.
Yeah.
I'm totally with you, Zan. I give this one 9 cherry Coke cans.
Nice.
Because
just the best. That's what everything.
Yep. Because it was I love the subtlety. Mm-hmm. I mean, and the creativity that went in these. They weren't just obvious references that everybody can just like check off a list. You had to be a fan, and you had to kind of connect things to catch the references, or you had to like be such a hardcore fan that you love things like physical performances and can appreciate that. So I love that detail.
You're right. Episode. So much creativity in referencing the obvious, like the cherry Coke.
Like there are overt references, and then there's just some that are just so subtle.
Just even Dana Ashbrook in the background dancing with a photo. Like you can barely even see Dana Ashbrook.
Right.
In that scene. So
but they wrote it in. I mean, that is
There is
Right.
so much love for Twin Peaks that went into the writing of this episode that it's just glorious.
It was.
It's really, and that, in, you know, Psych, when it comes to pop culture references in a story, Psych is the gold standard. You know, like Family Guy likes to think that it is, but Family Guy is way too in your face
No.
with it.
Right.
Psych is the gold standard of it. My favorite Psych moment of all time is what they call a psych out, Charles, which is a
Okay.
little sort of a over the credits outtake that they would do, and you can find these mostly online, and they're on the
Right.
Psych Pineapple Complete Series box set.
Well, I noticed there was an outtakes during the end credits of this. So,
Yes.
I caught that.
So those are called psych outs,
Okay.
and there's one psych out where Sean is trying to figure out how he's going to explain something to the chief, and he's like, "How am I going to explain this? What would Al be sure say?" And then Gus just sidles up to him and is just, "I can tell you how I feel about you night and day." And then Sean, not without missing a beat, "How I feel about you." Fantastic. And for those of you too young to remember Al B. Sure, the godfather of New Jack Swing, trust me, that's awesome. And just something that subtle. It's not like, not like everybody still talks about Al B. Sure, but just that's
Right.
just I just love the love of pop culture that obviously goes into these episodes. And this one was the pinnacle for me.
The thing about Psych is they're not reaching for it like Family Guy is. Like
Not
they're
at
like,
all.
oh, let's look up pop culture references. This is like the people on the show probably just do that.
This is that natural stream of thought where you have that, this reminds me of this, reminds me of this, reminds me of this movie quote, so I'm going to say it.
Right.
Right.
And when you are someone like us, and you also have that same pop culture knowledge, it seems very organic how they get to their references, how they start from point A and then get to the reference at point B. You're like, oh, I know exactly what fired in their minds to make them think,
Exactly.
to make them make those connections.
Which is what I love, and that makes the writing all the more brilliant because it's like they're in my head.
It's somebody has found a market
or unsettling a little bit that they're in your head. Yeah.
way to use the skill that we have that just happens in our everyday lives that makes everybody look at us saying, what the hell are you talking about?
Exactly.
So,
And then
yes.
you kind of feel good because you understood all the references.
Well, I've always said and not to go too far into my own personal philosophy. And again, Charles, you know I hate to say this word, but I've always said that there is value in being aware of your own zeitgeist.
Right.
Which word do you not like? Their values?
Zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Zeitgeist, yeah.
I'm not a fan either.
Yeah, it feels like it gets thrown around in the wrong way,
Yeah.
but in this situation,
It's
there's
certain
no other
certain
word for
context.
it.
Yes.
You're doing it right, though.
Right.
I'm using it correctly, and it's the best way to say
Right.
it because there's a phenomena that I refer to, and Charles, I think you've heard me talk about this as coolness by omission,
Yes.
where people tend to think that what they don't do is what makes them cool. I don't watch television. I don't do X. I don't do that. I don't whatever.
Right.
And it's what they don't do or what they don't.
Karen just shot herself. But
Karen is obviously
the
fed
face,
up with
yes.
this concept as much as me.
Yeah.
And the idea that what you don't do is what makes you a cool or interesting person, I disagree with. I think it's what you do take part in and what you are aware of.
Right.
And what I always say about being aware of my own zeitgeist is that lets me in on the joke. And I want to be in on the joke. I don't want to watch the Kardashians, but if someone makes fun of them, I want to know what they're talking about.
I'm in. That's right.
You want to be able to appreciate it.
Right. I want to get the joke. Like, I remember being in watching the movie Ted 2, and there's people fighting, but then you see him on this phone and you hear this music and everybody laughs in the theater. And I'm like, oh crap, I am only like 80% sure what they're laughing at. And I lean over to my cousin, I say, that's Angry Birds music, right? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, good. I know this joke. I'm in on this joke now. And so when you have these sort of this referential humor, which is done so in your face by a Family Guy or a Robot Chicken or something like that, it's a little bit easier to know what they're talking about if it's so in your face. But when it's subtle like this, you have to be aware of the culture and the pop culture to be in on this joke. And that's all I want to do is I just want to keep laughing. I just want to be in on the joke.
Well, the way this episode is structured, I think, is great because you don't really have to be a fan of Twin Peaks, as Karen has proved,
Right.
to appreciate this
Okay,
episode.
don't say it like
You don't
that,
have
though.
to be.
Okay, well, you know what I mean. That,
Right.
that you're not an expert in Twin Peaks.
Th-
How's that?
That's
You don't
it.
have to be a
Okay.
fan. Not that you have anything against Twin Peaks. You're just not.
Right.
You're
Right.
just not us.
So they're just there was just you watched this episode and you didn't catch all the Twin Peaks references that we went through.
No, but I
just now.
lived through Twin Peaks.
Right.
Right, you are aware
I
enough
didn't
of your
watch
own
it.
right, guys, to be in on this joke.
Right.
Exactly
That's
right.
right.
But I
And
mean,
with
but
Charles, you've proved that you don't have to be a hardcore Psych fan
right,
to
exactly.
enjoy this episode just because it's Twin Peaks.
Exactly. I was perfect. Yeah, I enjoyed this episode immensely because coming from the Twin Peaks perspective, but I was also entertained by the story and the characters as well.
Right.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and
Uh,
that's good writing.
I'm going to have to go back and revise my rating on this, Charles, because I forgot about it.
Do we get an upgrade?
We get an upgrade.
It really should be
Upgrade.
higher than a 9. I'm sorry.
We are getting a 9. We're getting a 9.5 with that 0.5 being added for its ability to predict the future.
Well, maybe I should do that too then, because you're right.
I love how you love me.
Love me. That just freaked me out.
I was the same thing with when we watched Fire Walk with Me, the director's cut after we
Yes.
watched The
Right.
Return, and somebody says is it future or is it past? We're like, whoa, wait a second.
Yep.
But this one, I seriously rewound that like 6 times. Like, am I actually hearing this song right now? That was
Yep.
yeah. So 9.5 cinnamon owls for its ability to predict the future. Absolutely.
Well, I guess I have to do 9.5 Coke can or
Well,
cherry Coke cans.
You don't
Yeah,
have
yeah.
to, but you really should.
But it predicted the future, Charles.
Zan talked me into it. I'm okay with that. I'm all right.
I am
with
fine
that.
with being blamed for that peer pressure. That works
Yeah,
for me.
exactly. Yeah, I'm okay. Yes. I see. I took the most prudent road I could take. I think with that.
I think you did. I think you
Yeah.
did.
By just going along with us, yes.
Just-
Yes.
The thing is, you have to give reference to it predicting the future, or else you don't know what's going to happen, Charles.
Exactly.
We
This
have
is
to.
true.
We have to have a healthy fear of this ability.
Well, it is
We
a
must-
show
we
about a
would-
psychic. So
I see what you did there.
A
Very-
fake psychic.
Yep. I'll give another one to
It
Karen
up.
there. That's good.
Yeah.
All right.
So-
So obviously we're not going to have time to talk about Saturday Night Live. I think we're going to
No,
have to
we
save
can,
that
we
for
can
another.
talk about that another time. We'll talk about that another time.
But so I guess we'll do that. What next time, or do you want to do something else next time? On Ghostwood.
We could do that next time, or we could discuss it later because our plans got a little screwy. So let's surprise the people out there, Charles. And you and
Okay.
I, we'll give them something great. No, we'll probably talk about that another. We'll do a part 2 of Twin Peaks references because
Yeah.
we'll do Saturday
Because
Live.
we get the Simpsons. Yeah.
We can do anything but love. So we'll do the smaller vignette.
I think that's a good idea because this was obviously so much. There was so much in this that there wasn't room for anything else.
According to the Psych wiki, there are apparently like 700 plus references to Twin Peaks in this.
Wow.
So I think we probably talked about like 690 of them.
Yeah, we did a pretty good job, I think,
I think we
between the
talked.
two of us, and like your lists were pretty much like, yes,
I
3.
threw in a couple.
You did.
You did good job.
You did. You
There is
did. We're not discounting
director-
you. We're happy that you did.
Okay, good.
There's a director's commentary of this episode that I was not able to watch,
Right.
so maybe I'll check that out and see if I'll fill us in next time.
See
If
if we missed anything.
Yep. So
All right. Okay. So we'll
Can
have
I
to figure.
mention-
What? Go ahead.
Can I mention something about the SNL sketch because I did watch that in preparation?
Yeah. Go ahead. Just real quick. Yeah.
It made me tear up because Phil Hartman,
Oh yeah.
Jan Hooks, Chris
Yep.
Farley,
mhm.
and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, they're also fantastic, and they were all gone way too soon.
Yeah.
Terrible things happened to all three of them, frankly.
Agreed.
So,
Agreed.
but yeah, it's
But they were all
they were
great in
all
that
comic
sketch.
geniuses.
They were
Comic
all great in that
geniuses, all
sketch,
three of
Big
them.
time. Big time.
Yep.
And all of them bringing it in that sketch as well. I don't remember the sketch. I remember him being on SNL in 1990, but I don't remember the sketch so much. When I watched it today, I was like, that is hilarious.
Oh, his Saturday Night Live is one of the all-time best I've ever seen. Like his episode, Shatner's episode with Get a Life.
Yeah, Get a Life. Yeah.
And there are some others that recently. Some of the Garth Brooks had a classic episode. Drake, anytime Drake is on Saturday Night Live, it's going to be classic. But yeah, the Kyle MacLachlan episode, because it has that. It has Welcome to All Things Scottish.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh
yes.
It
Where
has
he's got
him.
like a hat.
The Dieter sketch.
Yes.
Dieter. Yes.
The
It's the
episode of
first Dieter
Sprockets
sketch.
where he is the director of the
Sprockets,
of the sitcom Who Are You to Accuse Me? And
Who are you to accuse me?
Who are you to accuse me?
Yes.
And then it also has everybody at the Atlantic Records party giving Luther Campbell ideas for his next song. And this is where Kyle MacLachlan is. I have lyrics for you. Lick it, lick my butt. Lick it, lick it, lick it, my butt. Take it or leave it, you filthy animal. So, that is a classic episode.
I need to go back and watch the whole episode.
Yeah, me
Oh
too.
my god!
Because I've obviously seen the Twin Peaks sketch like a million times, but
I remember
the
that.
whole episode.
Lick my butt is just so great.
I remember that Scottish sketch that was just so overly obnoxious with the
Oh my God.
Scottishness. It was fantastic.
Oh,
So,
it's the
yeah.
same thing. Here's Scotland, here's Ireland, here's the bloody sea. Now get out!
Get out!
Well, I'm sure
Holy shit,
McLaughlin enjoyed it because
like
he's
that.
Scottish, so that was pretty good.
And of course the opening where they, he has the question and answer session, and who killed Laura Palmer? Well, it's Shelley the waitress.
Yep. And then
There's
and
a call for you. It's David Lynch.
Right.
Yeah, that episode is one for the record. That's a classic SNL all across the board. So.
And how weird is that Twin Peaks sketch? Because Conan O'Brien is in it
Yep.
as Deputy Annie Brennan.
Yeah,
Well, he was the head writer then, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
he was. Sorry. So
So-
yeah, we'll do Saturday Night Live. We'll do
Maybe we need to have you back to talk about the Saturday Night Live sketch.
That's up to you.
Yeah, it's up to you. But we'll see. Yeah.
Sure.
So
If you want
okay.
another 3-hour-long episode, sure.
Yeah. Well,
We
hey.
honestly do not need your help for that.
No. I've tried telling her this. I've told her that maybe it's me. I think, but we just digress, just like we do in the Fandom Zone.
What is this bizarre segue that's happening?
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Blaine.
That's why I have that on the soundboard.
Right.
It's easy to do when your brain works in pop culture references.
Yes.
Again,
It
you go
is.
from point A to point B to point
All
C,
these
and then
all these tangents. Yes.
Yep.
and then all of a sudden you're talking about Electric Dreams.
Yep.
All right.
That's how that happens.
And Lenny
so,
Von Dohlen.
So speaking of predicting the future,
Yes.
Charles.
Yes.
I've been finding this interesting lately. I'm sure you all have been reading the articles online about incels.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And-
These wonderful people. Yes.
Yeah. Do you know where I'm going with this, Charles?
I kind of do, but go
You
ahead.
kind of do. What is the term that an incel has for the kind of a-hole jock that actually is getting laid?
I give up.
A Chad.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
So
and
I
we
would
all
just
know
like
about
to say-
Chad.
Yes.
Deputy Chad.
I would just like
yes.
to remind everybody that here on Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast,
Right.
we hate Chads for completely different reasons.
Right. We don't want to
Although we did-
associate. We don't want to associate with the incels.
We're not giving a hard time to people who can find girlfriends.
Right.
If you are a crooked cop who is trying to do bad things and who
Yes.
helps Richard Horn, you're Chad and we don't like you. So
Right,
we have our
right.
our own universe's reason for not liking Chads. So I just
Exactly.
wanted to make sure that people realize we've been saying Chad before.
Yep. We were hating
Chad.
Chaz before it was cool.
Oh, totally. We totally
Okay,
hated Chad.
hipsters.
Yep.
We invented hate Chad. Yes, we totally did.
Do you need some mustache wax there, Charles?
I need some beard oil and some skinny jeans. Thank you very much. And please bring me my locally sourced steak on something other than a plate. That would be nice.
Sure. And a knit cap? Would you like a knit cap as well?
I would very much like that. And can I get a cold brew coffee, please? That's great.
I don't know, half calf, double calf, venti.
Oh no, just skim milk from a local dairy. That'd be great.
Okay.
That works. So.
Milk from a virgin teat.
Or it's like Portlandia. I just want to know the story, my cow's biography before I eat it.
Of course.
Yeah.
They bring the cow by the table.
Mm-hmm.
So
they
you
give me
feel
his
it.
life story, and yeah, you know where he comes from, and that he had a good life before he, before he became my steak.
All right. On that note, I think we should probably let everybody know where they could find us.
Mm-hmm.
So, Karen, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on the interwebs?
Well, if you go to the Twitter machine.
The Twitter machine.
And you type in ALEVERIA.
Yes.
Oliveria. That would be me. And there's a bio there. And you can click on the link and it'll take you to my blog. And it has all my other links there.
All right.
But you can find me here on Southgate Media on the Fandom Zone Podcast.
I hear that's a great podcast.
I hear it is too.
It's amazing.
Amazing!
I set you up, didn't I?
Amazing!
You did. I knew that's where you were going. I had my finger.
You were right at the button. Yep.
I was headed there already. Yep.
Exactly. So obviously we talk about all the comic book shows that are, and there's a lot of them. Holy crap!
We don't talk about all of them anymore, though.
No, because
we
that was just
abandoned
getting way too ridiculous of a format.
How could you?
So we just talked
we did.
We did.
Here's hour 4 of the
Fandom Zone. Pretty much. That's pretty much what we did. Like 2-part, hour-and-a-half long podcasts.
Yep.
We split up like 4 episodes in one part A, and then 4 episodes in a part B.
Yeah.
And it was just getting ridiculous.
What was it, like 2 months ago? We were like, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
We're just done with that.
Yeah, I told Karen, I goes like, okay, let's just cut this down to 4 best episodes of the week and talk about those.
Let's do
or just stuff that's interesting.
And if there's stuff we want to pull out from the other shows, then
right, we can always make a reference or whatever, something. But yeah, it's just way too much. So now we're lean and mean this time.
But we do reference most every comic book show that's on TV or streaming services.
Right.
We talk about comics in general. We talk about pop culture. We talk about geeky things. We talk about everything, but we do cover at least 4 or 5 shows each week.
Yes. And you can usually get my nonsense that I do here on Ghostwood just as much nonsense there as well.
At least, if
not more so.
If not more. Yeah, I give you a lot of leeway there.
Like Donald Trump references and all kinds of weird stuff.
That impression I could not stop laughing at you yesterday.
I'm glad I entertained you.
Oh my God. Right. The voice of Raoul gives a press conference.
Zan, where can they find you on the interwebs?
Oh, I am on Twitter as Udinax19.
Yes.
And you can always reach me through the Ghostwood Facebook group or the Ghostwood Twitter or the Ghostwood email, and you can always
here in a minute. Yeah.
You can always count on me to be posting goofy little things on our Ghostwood page.
Yes. So that would be you're referencing the Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks Podcast Facebook page.
That's what I'm referencing, yeah.
That's what you're referencing. And our Twitter account at GhostwoodCast, where you can drop us a line and as well, and let us know what you think of this episode and other Twin Peaks things you'd like us to talk about if we're not already talking about them, because we talked forever in a day. Or you could drop us a line on our Gmail, ghostwoodpodcast@gmail.com.
At the Gmail.
At the Gmail.
I'm stalking your Instagram right now, and that grilled cheese sandwich looks amazing.
My husband makes the best grilled cheese sandwiches. Better than anyone's mom. Better than anything you've gotten anywhere. They are the absolute best.
Zan, grill me a cheese.
No, I will not grill you a cheese.
Grill me a cheese.
Did I tell you that my friend Stacy bought me a sampler of that for Christmas one year?
I am not grilling you a cheese.
Like a cross-stitch sampler that your grandma would have in her house, but it says "Grill me a cheese" on it.
I love that.
It is beautiful.
I love that line. I love that whole scene.
No, I will not grill you a cheese.
So epic.
And
So,
yes,
as
I'm
for
on
me...
Instagram, Ghostwood and X19. I always forget about that too.
Right. Yeah, please follow Zan and Karen, both of them, because they're both awesome, as you probably could tell. And if you like one, you obviously want to check out the other one because they're pretty similar, at least when it comes to the Psych, at least. But
Oh, definitely.
yeah,
Psych.
We
so
like similar things, which is good.
Psych fandom is easy to come by, Charles. Wink, wink.
there. I see what you're doing there. As
Come to my house sometime.
again, I'm feeling kind of ganged up on here a little bit, but that's okay.
No, we're. I know you would like this show. It's very funny and
1,000%.
great
As
references.
she does the Count Floyd from SCTV with the DVD set.
Pretty scary, huh, kids?
Pretty scary stuff, eh, kids?
Very scary.
Exactly. As for me, you can reach me on the Twitter machine at Charles Skaggs, or at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram. Google Plus for all you crazy kids in the Google Plus. Yeah, exactly. Shout out to you, Karen. And Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs. And if Karen's going to help me with this one, my blog.
Hold on.
Okay, I'll wait for it. Are you ready?
Yes, go ahead. Your blog of geeky things,
My blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
or
That's a damn fine cup of cider.
That's not quite as catchy of a blog title.
no, that's why I did the other one
Okay.
first.
But I hear that's somebody else's blog. Somebody else can have that blog title. But I'm
Damn
damn
fine
good coffee. I'm damn good coffee and hot. And please check that out because I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Ghostwood and Twin Peaks, and all the stuff we talk about on the Fandom Zone podcast, comics,
And
sci-fi, and more. And just recently posted my Avengers Infinity War review, which was, oh God, took forever to write because there was so much stuff, you
I
guys.
still haven't seen. Since yesterday, I haven't gone out to see it.
I thought you were going to go see it today.
Not today.
Not today. Didn't happen. Oh, that's all right. Hopefully soon.
Yeah.
So, yeah, please check that out. And, yeah, please like us and follow us here on Ghostwood and help us out there. And go check out the other podcasts. And otherwise, thanks, everybody, for listening. We really appreciate it.
By the
And-
by,
Yes.
when you go to my blog, from
Yeah.
clicking my bio link on
Yeah.
at Aliveria,
Yes.
on that page it says blogs you should follow, and one of them is Damn Good Coffee and Hot, and then it says other podcasts you should be listening to, and
Yeah.
it says Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast.
All
So-
right.
There you go.
You're showing us some love. I appreciate that. I'm sure Zan
right.
does too.
Of course.
I do appreciate that. And let us not forget that if you've got, $1, $5 at the end of the month, you're like, where can I put this?
Yes.
There's always the Southgate Media Patreon
Yep.
where
Helps
you can
helps us keep the lights on.
helps us keep the lights on, helps the podcast get to you, and you can learn about all of the different Southgate Media podcasts that are out there. Because if you like one, it's just going to be a snowball effect from there.
And then I do 2 more of those, so you might want to check those out too. Titan Talk and Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. That'd be great.
Which
That I do with-
did you
Yes.
not hear? I cannot believe
yeah.
you let it go when I referred to Sheryl Lee's character as Dr. Donna. You just let that go.
Well,
You just
Donna
you just let
Hayward.
it-
Donna. You mean like Donna Hayward?
No, like Dr. Donna Friends.
Oh.
Like-
Okay.
like Dr.
The Dr. Donna from Doctor Who. Yes.
Yeah, you just let that go out in the ether with no comment whatsoever. I'm disappointed, Charles.
That's okay. I got a lot of stuff in my brain these days.
Swing and a miss.
It's full.
Yeah, it is.
His brain is full. His brain.
Every time I learn something new, it pushes something else out. Remember when I
It
took
does.
a wine tasting class and I forgot how to drive?
So that kind of reminds me.
Here's a strain of consciousness. When you said that,
Yeah.
in my head it was, but I learned to drive drunk from summer school.
Oh.
So.
You got fired? I swear to God I didn't say anything. No, it's okay. My mom came to a show. Your mother? And then my Aunt Edna, starts kissing me. If you guys haven't seen Summer School, it is Mark Harmon's magnum opus.
I've
the
seen
best.
that movie. That's a good movie.
Yeah.
Kirstie Alley. Yep.
Yep.
So good.
Yep. That's good. So while I'm thinking about it, because you just reminded me, if everyone would do me a solid and
Grill you a cheese?
grill me a cheese, but keep my mom in your thoughts.
Please.
Oh,
Because my mom was recently diagnosed with liver cancer,
Mom.
and
I'm
now
so sorry.
they do have a treatment plan. So, but if everyone would just kind of help me out, I know you don't know my mom, but I'd appreciate it if you would.
Absolutely. Positive.
I don't want to
healing-
bring the whole thing down, but
positive
just,
healing thoughts to Charles' mom.
yeah. So
I only
this is
yelled
not
at
ti-
him about it yesterday. I
Yeah.
completely yelled at him. I'm like, why did you not email me about this?
Well,
But
Well,
you had your own stuff
That's
to
still-
worry about. Okay.
Well, you do have your own stuff to worry about. So
Doesn't
it's-
matter.
Yeah, but
you have
still-
too much cancer in your life, Charles. It's not.
no kidding, no
not
kidding. 'Cause,
fair.
yeah, this is on top of my cat Keiko, who has cancer as well. So F cancer, seriously,
F cancer right in the ear.
right? Pretty much.
Seriously.
So
Right in the
yeah,
taco.
just keep her in your thoughts if you would. I'd appreciate it. So,
You know we are here.
all right. So, all right. Let's not bring everything down. Let's end on a good note. So, Karen, thank you so much for
You're
joining
welcome.
us here in the podcast. I hope you had fun.
I did. I loved it.
I hope we didn't go over your head
No.
with the Twin Peaks references.
You did not. I was catching everything you were saying. So, I mean, I might not have connected it to something in the show, but I
You said you watched the first season, so
Yeah.
you could pick up on the basics at least.
exactly.
That's awesome. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we head out?
No, not right now. I think we covered it. We know what we're doing next week, or in 2 weeks, because next week I'm at another funeral. My fourth one in 2 months this year. So
Yeah, you've had way too many funerals in your life.
I have had way too much ending going on. So yes,
Yeah.
I will be in Wisconsin for a funeral next week, and so the week after that, knock on wood, we will be
Back.
well. Everybody around us will be well, and we will be on track for part 2 of homages and parodies.
All right. Sounds like a plan. So, Karen, you're always welcome to join us if you want to come back.
I just might.
And I think you guys worked great together. So I think this is a home run. So thanks everybody for listening to Ghostwood the Twin Peaks podcast, and we'll see you next time. So bye everybody.
Bye, everybody.